Okay, perfect. So let's start with introductions. I can start off and then maybe we can go this way to Bethany next. My name is Skylar Fisher and I work with TCRCD as the Trinity County Fire Safe Council Coordinator.
Bethany Llewellyn, TCRCD Forest Health Program Manager. And for anyone who's not aware, beginning this month, the Fire Safe Council is falling under my program. So Skylar is still the coordinator, but as Amelia's leaving, that's our shift internally.
Yeah. Jill Cox, Board of Supervisors.
Kelly Sheen, District Manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District.
Pat Frost with Trinity Center Community Service District.
Carol Paul, Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department.
Dave Jaramillo, Forester, CAL FIRE, that's Trinity.
Kenneth Baldwin, Consulting Forester with DPW and Associates.
Great. Okay, just in time for you, Philip.
Philip Samey, Trinity County OES. A little late.
Yeah.
Now that we've done introductions in the room, we can go to Zoom. Chris, can you start us off?
Chris Cole, District Conservationist, NRCS.
Gina?
Hello, everybody. Gina Moon here with the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council and Salyer, South Fork Road, local area advisor and ambassador.
Thank you, Gina. Jeff?
Jeff Meyer, Mad River District area, kind of on with the fire department and fire council.
Thank you, Jeff. Dave?
Dave DeLange, Trinity PUD.
Thank you, Dave. Garrett?
Yeah, Garrett Dunn, Reading BLM Fire Management Officer.
Thank you, Garrett. Larry?
Larry Glass, safe, and also the South Fork Mountain Advisor.
Thank you, Larry. Jerry?
Hi, all. Jerry Cousins, Trinity County Collaborative and LAR for the Weaverville area.
Thank you, Jerry. Adriana?
Hi, it's Adriana Rodriguez. I am the TCRCD Forestry Health Program Coordinator.
Okay, thank you. And Xander?
I'm Xander, Forester at the Watershed Center.
Thank you, Xander. Okay, so we've gone through introductions. So going down the agenda, are there any requested changes or additions to the agenda today? So we had a few requests for additions after we sent out the agenda today. That was for a letter of support for Title III proposals from the Trinity Center VFD and also from the Watershed Center. But are there any other requests for changes or additions to the agenda other than that?
I was going to request that we do our project update first, since I'm going to have to leave a little early to visit with a grantor.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other requests for changes or additions, let's go to item 2, discussions. So based on the ongoing fires and our the TCRCD evacuation status and Know Your Zone applications, our office has been receiving a lot of requests for information and verification of their evacuation zones. So the Fire Safe Council has been performing a lot of outreach and been getting like questions about how those programs work. So we thought that we would provide a presentation for this meeting to give an idea of how to access those programs on the Trinity County Fire Safe Council website. And then if you have any questions, answering those, so we all have an idea of how to verify what your evacuation zone is by address, and then using that zone to check your evacuation status. Initially, we were going to have our GIS manager do that presentation, but there was a conflict. So this presentation I will lead for the group, but then she has done a supplementary presentation that goes more into like the data that goes into it that we will share on our Facebook. So it's publicly available for everyone. I mean, as this meeting will be on YouTube as well. So I will pull up the Fire Safe Council website and share the screen with everybody online so that we can all go through that. So I guess we can start from the beginning. So I will share screen. All right, does everybody on Zoom see the Google search?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So our my own computer. Okay, thank you.
Inflatable sim. I don't even know what.
Okay, so Fire Safe Trinity, or Trinity County Fire Safe Council takes you to this portal. You click that, and there's a few ways that you can access the evacuation status viewer and the Know Your Zone. So the first way is if you scroll down here, you'll see this link. The second way is if you go to programs and go to County Evacuation Routes Update, we provided a link on the top of the screen too. And then also in resources, if you go to evacuation guide, it will take you to the same page. All this information is also made available on Trinity County OES's website. So the first part of this process is understanding what your zone is. The first comment that we've gotten from folks is this pop-up. So you click this button here, you say okay, you have access to the viewer. So you'll see the county load in, and you go over here to type in your address. So we can do the RCD office, so 30 Horseshoe Lane. There it goes. So we see that here we are, you zoom out, you can tell what the evacuation zones are, and you see that we are within Weaverville 216. So something that we've gotten from the public as a question is how this zone is to be inputted within the evacuation status viewer, because the way that it presents is WVR space dash space 216. But what we care about for the evacuation status viewer is just the 216. So now we have this information. Before I go to the evacuation status viewer, there is a resource to sign up for Code Red within this portal, available on the left-hand side of the Know Your Zone website. So if anybody wants to sign up for Code Red and get those direct emergency alerts, they can do so here as well.
Is there a way to check to see whether you are signed up for Code Red?
There is an 800 number that I have written down on my bulletin board in my office. Can't quite see it from here. But I will send that out to the group because, people have asked me that before. A lot of times too, is if you go in, if they go in to sign up, and if they start inputting some information, it'll come up and say that there's already an account associated with this information, usually by way of the email address. And it normally won't kick in until you get everything filled out. I went through that with a couple of people that called in, but I can get that 800 number and get that sent out to the group, so we can actually, we'll post it on these sites. That'll just basically say check to see if you have already have an account.
Are there any other questions about Know Your Zone specifically before we move on to the evacuation status viewer?
I have sort of a stupid comment.
Yeah,
but,
no stupid comments.
people, I would bet that some people, when they go to type in their address,
Mhm.
type in their post office box, if it said physical address.
Yeah.
That might.
Okay.
Reduce the number of times people do that.
And just so for our neck of the woods, we have so many people that are seasonal, that are at the resorts, they're at the KOA, they're not gonna go here. So how do you communicate to those people, like, Bonanza King or, something like that? For a while, we were giving out the maps that you sent us, and they were putting the maps, and they were putting little signs in the cabins. You're in evacuation zone, blah, blah, blah. But, I don't know that this is very effective to communicate with people who don't live here, right? That they need to be,
Well, if they have summer homes here, I mean, it is
a lot
a
of
certain,
them. A lot of them are, we have all the Airbnbs, we
Yeah.
have the KOA, we have the resorts.
and
So
we
they're-
discussed that yesterday of reaching out to the Airbnb owners through the assessor's office to and put together a package for them to have in their places, to have a sign on the door that
Yeah.
says you are located in this is where you're at, and this is the best evacuation. This at least can get you out to
Perfect,
back out to the
perfect,
highway.
that's great.
So we were just discussing that yesterday.
Okay, you're ahead of me. And for old farts, there's a lot of old farts. I tell them to go to this website and they're just like totally lost. So they come to the fire station and they get a physical map. We have the map on the wall and we show them, that's where you are and here's your map.
Here's your brochure that we sent out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway, just.
Well, as you saw last night, when I brought that up at the community meeting, and not one person came and asked me for any help or any, did they know? I mean, when we put out the evacuation warning for High and Palm, with those two zones, and we got 23 responses back on it tells us how many households that the zone code red went to. 23 for those two zones in High and Palm, I think, is a great success because it shows people are listening, people are signing up for this. And I hope that was the same situation last night where people really said, nope, we're good, we understand it. Good education on your guys'
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a way with the code red that you can do an assessment of how many residences have signed up?
Well, when we send out an alert in that zone, it'll tell us how many it goes, how many it went to. There may be a way that we can just check to see.
Yeah. That's
I do have we're putting together another training session with OnSolve to try and answer a few questions. So I'll make sure that we add that to.
Because if there were areas that are particularly light, you could let volunteer fire departments or others know to kind of beef up. their
Concentrate on
outreach.
some of these areas. Great idea.
So just to,
I have a comment here.
Yeah, what's your comment?
Well, I just went to the website for the Fire Safe Council, and you have to figure out a pull-down menu to get to the evacuation status. I'm wondering, since it could be in a time of high emotion and adrenaline, can you just arrange to have a big link right on the front page of the site so people don't have to figure out how to get there?
Like as soon as you load in, is that your recommendation?
Yeah, right on the introductory, web page. Just have a big link for evacuation status, so you don't have to go to all the pull down menus to figure out how to get there.
We actually been sending people to the county OES website.
Yeah,
it's easier to find on the county OES website.
Yeah, Jerry, the county OES page has the map, right? When you first go to the county OES website, the map is there. It not only gives the zones that are in warning and mandatory, it also gives some traffic updates to show if there's construction on the roads that people may want to avoid. So if you try that, take a look at that and see what you think of that. I'd be interested as your what your impression is of that.
Okay, that's really good to know. But again, if people go to the Fire Safe Council one, it would be beneficial, I think, to have a direct link.
Maybe that's-
And as many direct links as possible, given everybody's page that are concerned with this. So, but I'll check out OES for sure.
Can I step and have a comment on that too? I agree with Jerry on that. It's just, I know like in Mad River, we have a lot of elderly people that are not real good on computers. And if we're giving them the information for Fire Safe Trinity Council page and signing them up, that's where they're going to look and mine for this info. So like Jerry said, even a link to the OES page would be beneficial for them, but try to get them to go to multiple web pages to get the information immediately on evacuation or areas of evacuation just might be a little tougher for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the redundancy, anywhere they hit, they get the same information. So if we all stay in the same, keep the same links and the same information, that way don't get any misinformation for any reason.
To Jerry's point, really though, even if you're on the county website, you still have to know it's departments, it's OES, it's code red. That's 3 links over before you get it, which is great that it's there and it works well. And there's
Yeah,
no
if they
other
just go
way
to Trinity
do that.
County's website,
But
it's not on there.
on the Fire Safe Council, if that's an easy thing, that I agree.
Okay, yeah.
Do you think the county would consider having, when there's like areas under evacuation warning and order, like a red button on the homepage?
I think so.
That seems
I was
reasonable
gonna
to
see
me.
what, it does make sense. During COVID, that's
Yeah.
what loaded,
Yeah.
whatever is,
Well, and just,
can we do that?
I don't have access to the county website, but I know Caleb can go through IT and just give him that map, and that way, and anytime we update it, we just need to reach out to IT and have them update it.
That'd be great.
well, and I just want to say again, so like, there are a lot of areas where there's no internet and there's no phone, like up at where we are. So a lot of people try to use their phone, the visitors, to get on the internet. And so, it's gotta be phone friendly and, the whole bit, because, that they're looking at a little screen, trying to scroll, find stuff.
Yeah.
So I would like to suggest that anybody who has a site and is connected with the fire world have a direct link to one place of information. Because just as Carol was saying, I mean, people are just scurrying around trying to find the information. And I had lots of feedback that, where do I go? How do I know? What do all these numbers mean? So the simpler, the better.
And
What about an app?
The map is, we do have the
No,
map.
an app. What about an app?
Oh, an app.
What about an app? I mean, I'm just saying during fire season, like I said, just something where if they are signed up for this, they get notifications. If it was an app, I know that's expensive and takes a lot of IT stuff, but it's just something to think of down the road to make it more user friendly.
I would like to add something from the Salyer area. There was confusion with people still learning this program. The South Fork of the Trinity is the only thing people read when it was High and Palm area, and there was quite an effort to get people straightened out that there was no fire, no evacuations on the South Fork County Road out of Salyer. So I think more of the handouts, like I did receive as a landowner on the South Fork County Road, and maybe some other kind of a map, and just keep sharing all this information, but user friendly and quick for the new people on the county road, and or visitors or concerned family members that just read that much South Fork of the Trinity and have don't realize that that's up at the headwaters of the South Fork River. So just a little bit of help trying to get clarification to those type of people. It's still new, I get it. Landmarks is the other thing I would, if ever can be thrown in. I know there's layers within the watch duty and some other stuff, but just till we get real familiar with this map and the zones.
And
That's where the zone descriptions are coming in, where they.
so what's this, can we still edit the map the actual lines and the descriptions? Or is that kind of like we're done?
Of all where the zones are numbered and located?
Yes.
There was a discussion yesterday about that because search and rescue is saying it didn't really flow as well as they would have liked. I think that I'm opposed to changing the map. I think that we're in this huge training session right now. We've got people finally on board. If we start moving, go, okay, now all of a sudden in Trinity Center, your zone has gone from 413 to 423.
Well, the issue we had was so the line for 139, that warning is pretty arbitrary. It just kind of follows the section line. So what it did was it picked up 3 homes at the very end of Long Canyon. The rest of Long Canyon was not under a warning.
Because yeah.
Just, and
it
so
broke off right there.
if you just move the line over a hair so that you actually have residences in Long Canyon separate from the trailhead, which is what they were really worried about. Yeah, you wouldn't have the panic that we had.
Maybe the adjustment of the lines might not be wouldn't affect people as much, other than the 3 residents saying that now you're over in this zone. As long as there's something that that the line borders, it needs to border some sort of a road so we can utilize the zone description and say this zone
so
starts
there's
here.
nothing physical, it just came down the section line.
Yeah.
So that's where we were initially dealing with a bunch of, the little lady at the top of the road was calling all her neighbors saying we're under an evacuation warning, and we're going, no, you're not. So
well, and that's also, when they choose those zones in the, the sheriff's department or whatever chooses those zones, there's going to be some, there's going to be some gaps, but definitely bring that to our attention, and we can look at with Denise, and maybe if we can just, that way we're only, and there's gonna, that's, I don't know what took place when these were originally designed. It was before I got here, but I'm sure that there was plenty of, I would hope there was plenty of discussion and outreach.
Yeah,
to the communities.
Well, actually, some of the lines were drawn so that a whole neighborhood was captured, and that's what we were trying to do. Is just on this particular one.
Yeah, you split a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
That's few enough.
I think there's been enough input about just the access of information. And I wonder, we probably won't solve it today, but if Fire Safe Council people can kind of get together and come up with maybe a more synchronous approach to accessing information throughout the county, that'd be great.
I have a question about the red alerts again. It's been a while. I'm pretty sure I signed up. Do these go out to landlines? Because
Yes,
we don't.
If you put it, depending on how you sign up, if you just grab the mobile app that was originally out there, it's only going to go to your phone. And if you're not within the area that says you have it set at 25 miles, if you're outside 25 miles of that fire, it won't pick up. That's why going through the website, it puts your address in there, it'll put your landline, you put your cell phone number. Doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to get that because it's
You can do your email address.
Yeah, it'll send you an email, it'll send you a text message, it'll call your phone, and when you answer, you'll get a recorded message.
So at our house, it can happen that her cell phone, my cell phone, our landline, and our email addresses all go bing, 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 bing
At the same time, yeah. Yeah, so there's
anything that you put in there, it'll contact.
Yeah.
Because I've got a
And you
cell
can-
phone, but it doesn't work. Nobody's cell phone get any coverage out of my valve.
And you can put multiple phone numbers in there. You can just keep adding. So if you want, say you have a contact person, a daughter or son that you want that alert to go off to, when you have an issue in your area, it will also notify them and tell them. So you can add multiple email addresses, multiple phone numbers, landlines. It even does, hard of hearing. It's really well orchestrated.
Hard of hearing, they just talk louder.
They just yell at you. Yeah.
In the phone, it's like.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other comments at this point before we do the evacuation status viewer? I've taken note of everything. It's really valuable since this is kind of a new program, so we want to make sure that we can improve and make things easier for our community. So, no holding back on comments, please.
Let her have it.
Okay, so seeing no more comments on Know Your Zone. So if you're going through the Fire Safe Council page, if you scroll down a little bit, you will see the evacuation and wildfire status map. And something I didn't mention before, but this heading and also this heading for Know Your Zone are links that take you to another tab to do like a full screen of these pages. But we thought if we embedded it, it might make it a little easier.
Do we want to change instead of saying wildfire status, because we use this map for severe weather, if there's some other type of maybe put
Emergency.
wildfire /
Emergency
status, because when we had the active shooter, they put a section in for shelter in place. So instead of it just being a wildfire map, they would know to go to this.
That's a good suggestion.
One for the little guy.
Can you blow up the 130, 140, 139?
For the zoom in, oh, for your.
It's the next one down, 139.
You want me to zoom in a little bit more?
No, yeah. So, see, there's
See
no
where it-
roads. As part of the issue, there's no roads.
So they're not even really utilizing a road going across, or they just cut straight across.
So I'm trying to find, Long Canyon Road, so it comes up here. So these 3 houses right here. So that's what I mean, the rest of the houses are all down here. So this line, that's what I'm saying, you go over there. But it just came down the section, see what I mean? That was pretty arbitrary.
Yeah, I think that, for simplicity, to try and just square it off instead, because there's not any major veins going through there that they could. Maybe, I'm just thinking this is what their reasoning was.
Yeah,
but
no,
I
that's what it was.
can't,
Yeah, it's logical.
Yeah.
It's just, it cuts the neighborhood,
Could
so.
you scroll up? I see like a little bit, see that other line coming over? You could just continue that line down.
Well, they wanted to capture the trailhead, and the trailhead is like here. The road that goes to the trail, oh, it's right here. So here's Long Canyon Road, sorry, right here, here's Long Canyon Road. They want the trailhead, which is there. So that's what I mean, if the line comes over here, you capture what they want, which was preventing people from going into the wilderness, but not panicking the neighborhood.
So does this show all the roads, the Forest Service road? It doesn't look like it.
That's what I mean, it's really hard to orient yourself on those
Yeah.
maps, because there's no this is Long Canyon Road.
We do have alternative layers and base maps that you can put. So right now the roads are off, but we can turn those on and have access to more roads underneath. But
Yeah, because there's multiple ways to get out of, say, at the head of Long Canyon, is it the Rainier Road?
Yeah, you can, so here's
This is Mule Creek Road.
Mule
comes
Creek.
down, but Long
Yeah.
Canyon Road is not labeled. For some reason.
sometimes when you zoom in some more, the names start
Oh,
coming
there you
on.
go. All right,
Yeah,
never mind.
it's all based on,
I see.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
now
here's-
it's showing the Forest Service road.
Here's the houses, here's the trailhead right there. So it's just that little bit. That
Yeah.
caused the pain.
well, like I say, I'm sure that there's gonna be several areas like that that are gonna fall through the cracks and
Yeah, but like you said, it's a-
I can bring it up to the sheriff's department when we do our zone meetings. We've been still meeting on these and the zone descriptions and and bring these up. It's gonna be up to them. They're the ones that are kind of spearheading the mapping and the descriptions.
So
That's an
another
easy
thing
fix. I can talk to Denise about that.
okay.
another thing
I have an idea. how
I'm
to do
thinking
it.
of, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ken.
Another thing I'm thinking about, because I remember in that campfire, there was reported of people going up roads that then were blocked, or they couldn't get through. And, it shows a lot of roads, but they're not necessarily drivable.
Yeah.
So is there, I don't know how you do it. People would have to check out the drivability of these
Well,
roads
that's-
periodically to.
This is probably, I'd say, phase 3 of this, which is the evacuation routes. And I think that, like you were talking about with the brochures, we were talking yesterday about, we're gonna have more information and we would recreate that brochure with primary and secondary roads, but try to not send, we don't want to send people onto Forest Service, especially if they're tourists, we don't want to send them into roads that aren't going to lead out. So each one of these zones, we're identifying a primary and a secondary way to get out of there. And then the way we're trying to set it up is when they do if they put a zone into mandatory, it'll come up with the zone number, it'll come up with a description of what roads encompass it, and the primary and secondary routes out of that, and automatically. So we're trying to build these layers into this and simplify it for the dispatchers, whoever's putting the code red alert out. So it is still a process. We are looking at all of these options, but anything you guys can bring forward is great, because we covered an hour's worth of it yesterday, and I think we went really well, but there's still a lot of other things outside the box that we don't think about.
Regarding using the evacuation zone to immediately go to your zone on this application, there's a search tool at the top here where it says enter evacuation zone number. So going from the zone that we checked for the address of the RCD office, so that's 216, you would just type here and only put 216, enter, and then that would take you to this evacuation zone. You can tell by the coloration, since we were just at where there's a currently posted evacuation order and warning, that it's not red or yellow. But if you scroll down in this box here that populates when you search up the evacuation zone, it will say an evacuation. Yeah.
Here's your description.
So there it says, normal, no active public safety incidents. And then, yes, the evacuation zone descriptions have been inputted within this portal. So you can also read those. And that is the Know Your Zone and the evacuation status map. So do we have any comments or questions or concerns about this application?
No, but I think the descriptions for our area, definitely, I need to help rewrite those, because like if you read some of them, it talks about all it says this area doesn't have people, but I'm like, yes, it does, kind of thing. And so,
do you know who did your area?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But like the, Johansson's and stuff, the people that live on Mule Creek, and if you read that description of that area, it sounds like it's just pure wilderness, blah, 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 but it's got.
Untrammeled, pristine.
No, it's people
But stay out.
But I can help, I noticed,
Oh, yeah.
I had a note to myself to update those.
Yeah, and that's, they've done the initial review through the Sheriff's Department. I know that Denise has looked at a few of them, and it's kind of, if they got a little wordy or there were some things in it that didn't make sense. We're trying to make those changes. We're also going to try and identify another layer in these two water sources for CAL FIRE, somebody that's up there fighting, any firefighters. If there's water sources that can be used, if there's vulnerable residents, that can't evacuate on their own, that might have accessibility issues. So we're still trying to add different parts to these to get more information. It wouldn't be, general public really wouldn't be looking at these things, but evacuation for Sheriff's Department or, fire departments, especially in some of the rural areas, that people say, hey, I've got, 2,500, I got 5,000 gallons of water with it.
Well, we have, so like we have GPS, like drafting sites and all that kind of stuff, if you put that in there.
We should have a lot of that information in the CWPP infrastructure layers, but if there are others, I mean, that would be a place. And if we know that there are specific drafting sites that aren't already in that data, we should get that information in there. And then we could pull from that to populate, as a separate layer, that kind of information on.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, if
I
as
can
long as
send
it's,
our stuff to Denise then to put in, okay.
yeah,
Yep.
because as long as it's, I don't know how we make it available to just emergency personnel. I mean, it's, putting stuff like that for public, public knowledge. I go back to when we had a lot of issues with when the drought and people were stealing water for, and hey, we can look on this map and there's all the, there's places we can get water. It's just a thought.
No, it's a valid concern. I know that the CWPP has a separate viewer, and I don't know how much of that kind of infrastructure information is actually on there publicly available, outside of anything that we may have,
But
like published, but like, the booklets and stuff like that, that's,
yeah,
it is
still gotta be,
public information, but I do
Yeah,
get
it's not-
the sensitivity to it is pretty
yeah, but
important.
is it accessible to, so it's accessible to first responders?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, ours.
Sorry, I
is
didn't mean to
not
put you on the spot.
We're doing it because we're developing a pre-attack plan.
Yeah.
A fire response plan, so, but I don't think other departments are doing stuff.
Well, maybe I'll bring that up at the fire chiefs and start talking about that, maybe helping people do that. Give them your ideas and how you did it.
Jerry, I see your hand is up. Did you have some?
Thanks. So this is picking up on the comments of Phillips.
Uh-oh.
Who just kind of alluded to the agency, sheriff's office sitting for hours, working on the patterns of what you're presenting. And I think when that happens, people start developing assumptions that, aren't spoken. So I'm wondering if after all the work is done, would it be worth convening like a community focus group or two and just let them run with it and see how they work through it? And they may have questions that, after hours and hours of conversations of agency people, they don't even think about anymore.
Oh, yeah. I'll definitely bring that up to them and see if, I know that we've really been trying to, when you get out to a lot of input, everybody, we may be wasting time.
Oh, for sure. I'm just
and-
thinking that once you think you have a product, you bring a group of 6 or 7 community people and say, have at it. Tell me how it works.
Or maybe
Be as simple as that. Just a thought.
For, would the board want to look at that for their constituents and see what they think, or is it?
Yeah, and I just would say to Jerry's point, I'm sitting here trying to work through it with my own house. And any way that I enter it, if I just enter my 160 Pioneer Lane, if I add Weaverville, if I add California, if I add my zip code, it keeps saying no results.
But as you start entering it, does it give you a drop down when you first put the address in the street? Do you get a?
And I widen the results for more miles. We don't have to take our time with this today.
Yeah.
To Jerry's point, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And I'm not, a techno whiz, but I can navigate my way and I can't get this to work for me. So I think it's valid.
But no, to your point, Jerry, I think that's, it's a good idea. We have several agencies that kind of went over this already, but it is still a work in progress. We're still trying to work out the kinks. But I'm trying to avoid, 3 people can't decide where to go for lunch. You get too many people involved and it just, everybody's chasing their tail. So,
I get it.
But I do respect your point and, definitely we'll try and maybe reach out to a few more community people and see, because these descriptions were brought in from the community, that a community person would, each different community, there was somebody different in those communities that gave us these descriptions, but we can definitely, continue to reach out and fine tune it a little bit.
I got a question, or just maybe this, I think it's a question, but I'm not on Facebook or anything like that, but it seems like a lot of information gets passed around on Facebook really fast in this community, like something happens, people know right away through that avenue. So during these evacuation warnings or anything like that, that maybe one person knows, are we finding that other community web pages are being utilized to help people get through this if you're having trouble or whatever?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that,
I mean,
is that happening?
Yeah, and it's funny because, we have so many community pages. You have the Hayfork community, you have Ruth community,
Right.
and it seems like, I know with few people on there, the minute that they put something on one community, they'll put it on all the communities. I mean, we try to keep our OES Facebook page just as updated as the web page, because a lot of people, it's like Jill and I were talking about, people don't go to Facebook, so that we have the web page, try to make it the same. But also misinformation will spread through that real quick too. So it's almost, we're trying to beat the misinformation by making sure that we have the proper information. And I know, like, especially with these two fires, they created their own Facebook pages, so you can just go right to the Deep Fire Facebook page and watch their briefings that they've taped and the updates. So that, I think, is great because it limits the misinformation from people going, hey, I heard, I heard this, I heard that.
The rumor mill.
Yeah.
No, I hear you, for sure.
That's what we were dealing with.
That's why I'm
was
likewise.
Anyway.
It seems like information gets passed along.
So, in regard to water, probably years ago, there was an article in the Trinity Journal about landowners being able to go to CAL FIRE and getting these blue reflectors.
The
If
Blue
they
Dot-
have-
It was through the locally.
Yes, the Blue Dot program, the fire departments were handing them out.
Oh, the fire departments, because I went to the CAL FIRE station here and they didn't know anything about it. And I told them I had, at that time I had over 30,000 gallons of water out on Indian Creek. At a time when the creek was dried up, there was no source of water anywhere close if there was a fire out there. And I wanted them to be able to use this, and they didn't seem to be interested at all in the fact that there was a water source there.
So a lot of the tanks are actually on Denise has those in a GPS layer. When she did the CWPP, we marked tanks, like our tank is on there. And then the fire departments, the Blue Dot program was mostly so strike teams and stuff coming in when it's dark or smoky would be able to zero in on where the actual standpipe, whatever water supply was. So I'm sure there's more tanks that need to be incorporated into the CWPP if the landowner is willing.
I have a whole bunch of dots in my office, and the Fire Safe Council still works with the local VFDs to connect. And so if you're interested, we'd be happy to help
Well,
facilitate
I
that.
bought some reflectors at Ace, but if they're not recorded anywhere, if the fire agencies don't know about them, don't have them on a map, then it kind of seems pointless.
Well, we like to have the VFDs go out and put down the dot so they can know where it is and record it, and so it's in their records.
I see.
But we.
Well, I'm
won't buy
outside the
dots.
district.
Oh, I see.
So, CAL FIRE.
I didn't catch what you said, something about 160.
Fire responders, although back in the past, I think in the eighties, late eighties, volunteers actually came out when the cabin was key.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's their official district and then there's where they serve.
Response area.
Response area is bigger.
Did Denise actually talk to you about? She came in and was really excited yesterday and told me like the numbers of
Yes,
hits that these sites are getting.
Yeah, she told me that we've been getting like crazy numbers of views on our evacuation status viewer.
Is that one?
I don't know exactly which it corresponds to.
It was like $85,000, 85,000 a day,
Yeah,
which was, over the past like few weeks or whatever. Which is more than the parcel.
Pass them out
interesting.
to this one here.
So somebody's looking at it,
Yeah.
a lot of somebody's.
Lots of-
Well, we put links on our Facebook pages to the county OES page, so that they could go to the evacuation status viewer. Because, yeah, people were like saying they were evacuated, and I'm like, no, you're not, go here, click on this, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Okay, if there are no more comments or questions about this presentation, I will stop share screen. Okay, and then we can transition to the next item on the agenda, which is grants. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 additional letters of support requests, but we can start with RCDs. Each are for Title III grants, and I can pull it up and share screen for the written letter for everybody on Zoom. So let me do that really quick.
Yeah, I started something different. We need to find out why.
Did you find it?
It came right up on the phone, but it's still not coming up on the laptop, so yeah, we still have to get that done. Yeah, let's go ahead.
We are going to do the first letter of support.
So when there was just one letter,
Yes.
I thought I had a really great idea. I don't know that it is a great idea anymore. Because I know there are multiple entities that typically apply to Title III, and it usually is oversubscribed. And what I thought was a great idea was, instead of sending letters related to individual proposals, would be one letter from the Fire Safe Council supporting all the proposals that we knew about. But I don't know what, because I believe it was discussed at the Fire Chiefs Association, and there were there are other entities other than these 3 letters.
Right.
That we would support if we had a letter from them to do so. Anyway, so I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm kind of thinking, I don't know that. So in the past, there were 3 or 4 major players, and they all had the RCD, the Watershed Center, Weaverville with the fuel reduction projects, and they kind of got together with the Fire Safe Council and said, I'm doing this, you're doing that, and then they kind of, Fire Safe Council said, yeah, sounds good. But the way it's changed last year, where more people outside of the Fire Safe Council were applying for funds, I'm kind of wondering if it's not, even though I have a draft letter here, I'm thinking it's not such a great idea that the Fire Safe Council kind of picks certain things if you don't know who all is applying. It's like,
I think it's a matter of showing support for the people that the Fire Safe Council knows is going to get the work done. I mean, the problem with past asks were that a lot of them were needed to be pitched out because they weren't actually, like, they weren't authorized to basically fund certain things like an ambulance, for example. So I don't know. I think
it's more of a screening thing.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with it myself on how to approach it these days. Because last year, I was going to actually try to find the list, but there were a number of, search and rescue was one that got some funding.
Coffee
Creek Volunteer Fire, different Coffee Creek Volunteer Fire Department, Douglas City.
For stuff.
that qualifies, and we don't see that, and I worry that if we have letters for specific projects, but we weren't aware of other ones, does it make it look like we aren't supporting those other ones because we haven't submitted a letter?
They didn't come to us either.
Well, but I don't know that the Fire Safe Council really reached out. You know, I know that you guys came to the Chiefs Association, but other than the ad in the paper from the county, and you know, if you happen to read your newsletter, you know, I don't know if the Fire Safe Council went to all the potential groups in the county and said, you know, you could get money under this, and here's what you could get money for. As far as the letter for the RCD, I'm a little concerned. It seems like, I don't really know exactly what you're proposing to do with the whole 100,000, but basically when you came to the fire chiefs, you said it was going to be around 60,000. Now it's 100,000, which is over a third of what's available. And it seems like it's planning for the CWPP, which isn't due to be redone for not till 2025. And is there other funding for CWPP? I would like to see a lot more of this Title III money for actually implementation, you know, versus planning. I'd like to see a lot more for actually getting the Firewise communities to do stuff that maintains their Firewise certification. Because I'm concerned that the insurance companies are going to go, hey, we give a big discount to people with Firewise certification, and here's Trinity Center, and they're doing home hardening and applying for grants and Firewise Day every year, and next to it's Coffee Creek, and they're not doing anything, but they get the same discount for insurance. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we help these Firewise communities that aren't really doing very much? You're doing all the work for them. How do we get them to bootstrap up and get involved and stuff? So that's where I'm thinking, you know, money needs to go versus CWPP planning, where, you know, there's projects out there that aren't going to be finalized and started to be implemented while you're trying to do planning. You're not even going to know what's going on with all these projects. Anyway, that's my spiel.
Well, I can speak to part of that, which is that we have gone to a number, or when we first talked about it, the reason why it wasn't included was because we hadn't realized that there was a limitation on the community wildfire defense grants, which specifically talks about updating community wildfire protection plans, but they have to be expired. And we don't want to have ours expire before we actually apply for that kind of funding and then have a process that takes 2 years to complete, thusly making it so that none of the organizations that are typically, we have to have a CWPP that's active to be able to go after CAL FIRE funding, for example. So it's important that we get it done prior to its you know, expiration.
So it's kind of its due date is 2025.
That's when our next, I mean, technically we need to have it pretty much completed by the end of next calendar year.
Right.
Because it would be effective.
But you don't know, I mean, like I said, that's 100,000 out of 285,000, and you don't know what else is out there. You don't know how much Weaverville's really going to be asking for, or search and rescue, or other fire departments that might be wanting to get stuff. I mean, it seems like we're working in kind of a vacuum of information here. And like I said, I don't know that the Fire Safe Council really made it clear to everybody, you need to bring your application, what you're proposing, to the Fire Safe Council if you want to get a letter. I mean, that never has.
Well, we don't really have, I mean, like you said, search and rescue, they don't come to these meetings. So how do we know what they're planning on doing? Like then most of these other organizations aren't involved in this process.
So it goes to the Board of Supervisors to decide, and they're going to see oh, these projects have fire safe council letters. But I mean, does the board of supervisors really know that these other groups, they just don't know that they should ask for a letter from the fire safe council
Or from somebody.
or from somebody. They're just like working on their little applications. That's what worries me.
I think it's a fair perspective, Carol. And just looking at equity and, if there was a way that it was clearly mentioned to everyone, and everyone had the same opportunity with maybe a deadline, and then the fire safe council, minus the supervisorial participant, could decide where your letters were gonna go. It does seem like that would be equitable to everyone.
Does it make sense to ask for that much money to update a plan that's arguably the furthest along in the whole country?
So that's a question to ask after you ask this question, right? Because if these are the only ones on the table for consideration, then that question is, yeah, that needs to be discussed. But are you going to move on this idea and then move forward with it, or are you going to like take one step back and reconsider?
Because I always try to be conservative. I don't want to be greedy. So like we asked for 2 radios for $6,500. If I was thinking that other people weren't applying, so we applied for a California Fire Foundation grant, which I have no idea if we're going to get, to pick up the property that got left out of the FEMA grant, where they are. So the Trinity Knolls. So I applied for $15,000 grant to do sitting around the Knolls water system, their tanks and the backside of the Knolls. And so I would have turned that in, but I thought, well, no, I want to leave money for other groups to kind of, apply for funding. So, that's why I'm a little worried that there's such a high percent of the funding that would be the RCD. So as it is, I'll probably go ahead and turn that in, and then the board of supervisors has to decide. Because that's totally within the Firewise community kind of criteria.
And really what we saw before was last year, the asks, of course, were so much more extensive than what they were spending available for. It was really a great thing to see the different agencies come forward and they kind of did the deciding among themselves. Todd showed up and said, we can do with a bit less so that this can go over here. And somebody else said, we can do with a bit less so it can go over there. There really is that everybody's got that oversight. Everyone wants the best for everyone. And maybe there's a process by which that can be more, do that now. So that what goes to the board is, hey, we've already worked it out amongst ourselves.
The hard thing is to know who
We don't know who all
might
submitted
apply.
applications.
So maybe the process, the Title III process, has everybody submit their proposals to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors historically has just their next step under the law is to publish in the newspaper a list of the proposals and how much they've asked for. And last time, it was actually 2 years ago, last year we didn't.
Yes, you're right.
Then there was the question of do all of the proposals, because there were proposals that clearly, like the ambulance, did not fit the criteria of Title III.
Right.
So the Board of Supervisors had the staff send a letter to all applicants, the proponents, saying, please describe how your project fits one of these categories. That could be also in an more informal sense, the opportunity, once you know who all the applicants are, to say, applicants meet in this room at this time and see what you can do to kind of work out the numbers. But you can't do it formally because then it would be a Brown Act kind of issue if you were asking some specific group to advise you.
Mhm.
But you could informally, or you could potentially have an ad hoc committee. I know that term kind of doesn't always work with the board of supervisors, but that would, just like the Title II RAC invites applicants in to kind of give their pitch and the why and what, and say, well, how can you live with X instead of Y amount? I mean, there might be some process that you could do, but you'd want to make sure that, you know, your attorneys didn't think you were violating the Brown Act in some way.
Well, I don't think it would be a Brown Act violation if there were no supervisors present, right? These
Well,
groups could come together.
But if you're, I think that if you're formally, if there's a committee that's established to advise the board of supervisors, you have to appoint them. And then they have to, a committee of a local government has to follow the Brown Act. But you just have to follow the Brown. It's not like it's, but anyway, there might be a process that you could use that, you know, because this goes back a ways, you know, the idea of the major player, because there really were only Watershed Center, the RCD, Weaverville Fire were the only ones applying for money, and the three groups would get together and kind of can't come up with a proposal and submit it into the board. But now it has, the word has gotten out, you know, so, you know, local, you know, volunteer fire departments in particular, you know, look for this as an opportunity to fill little holes in their, you know, in their.
Well, there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of money for stuff. You
No.
know, there's a lot of money out there now for fuel
For
production
chainsaw
project
work.
and the kind of stuff that used to be funded under this.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to speak into the voice of the community a little bit, you know, I had a call from a constituent who said, somebody always comes and helps me with my piles. And I called the fire department and they said, there's no money. I said, well, they're right. And here's why, and really sorry. And then to solve that person's problem, yes, the RCD had funding in a program and was able to help this person. But bottom line is, the community does get used to certain services being available, and this money is how a lot of that does happen.
Well, that's what you know, my mindset is the Title III money used to fund the chipping program for the RCD and the Watershed Center and the fuel reduction program for Weaverville. And so that's, but now we've shifted to seemingly planting and noxious weeds and stuff. And I'm just like,
I mean, in some times in the past, Title III did help support the CWPP.
Yeah, that's true.
Updates. So.
Which would be to Dave's point, and I didn't mean to cut you off from your point, just like in what order are we gonna consider? I mean, your point obviously is quite valid and.
Well, I mean, I just heard a third of the cost of the total. It's like, all right, well, we already have a plan. We've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in that plan.
And the plan's gonna
Yeah,
expire.
it's gonna.
Right, it has to
So
be.
does
updated
does
or
it take
updated.
100,000 or does it take 50,000 or what is it realistically? What does it look like? And the letter doesn't really talk about what is the
it's hard
update
to
look
tell
like.
how much, because there's a lot of things,
Well,
like
like
it's,
you said, so we added $40,000 on it to fund a portion of it. It'll cost us, if we use, the numbers that were given to me were that if we wanted to do a complete redesign at this point, now 25 years in on this, it would cost about $125,000 for us to do it over a 2-year period. And so 40,000 is only a portion of that, but it will cost us just to do like a standard update to it. It's going to cost probably about $75,000. So that's like half of that's half of what we'll need to actually get the thing completed. We're not, the whole 100 is not for that. It's the chipping program and the Firewise education, the other 60 that you originally heard at the fire chiefs meeting was sort of that basic level of compliance that we also need in order to be able to have Firewise community status and all that affords the community.
Well, how much is noxious weed stuff?
I mean, as much, we have a lot, it's just unlimited, right?
Oh, I know,
Really,
that's
all of
money
it's
wise,
like-
I was just trying to figure out.
as much as we can get.
So the Fire Safe Council supports the RCD's implementation work to treat noxious weed populations.
I think we spent about $9,000 over that last round that we had. On doing mostly broom, which is basically fuels reduction. In specific communities like that are, neighborhoods like East Weaver, for example.
And then the first aid materials, CPR, first aid training.
That's to train our staff.
So if anything, I wonder this, I mean, there's never gonna be enough money for all these things are important, right? Everything's critical. We need all of it done. So one question would be, Philip, you're all the time looking for grants. When we have all of these proposals, when we see everything, is there any way that you can kind of give it once over and sort of highlight, I think maybe I can find grants to fill these 4 items, maybe those can be funded a different way, and that whittles it down a bit more?
Well,
Training money,
I'm sorry.
training money.
Yeah, I mean, with my, right now, I'm really just focusing on the 2 grants that we get, the emergency management and Homeland Security.
Okay.
I have, and then whatever grants that we're closing out.
Mhm.
So going out and trying to find other grants that are outside of what I'm normally, I have yet to pursue that.
Sure, that's
A lot of it is
capacity issue. Sure.
knowledge.
Yeah, okay.
How to do it.
Okay.
But when I look at the grants that I have and when we get the requests in, we try to, because we have to break those grants down and there's a lot of criteria in those grants that we can spend the money on.
Yeah.
So we have to either find projects that fit that criteria. So on the grants that I have, like, training or, emergency management has to be something equipment used in an emergency and not just, everyday use.
Yeah.
So, I know there's a lot of other funding out there and that's why I'm trying, I'm really looking towards RCD and Fire Safety Council to help me pursue those, apply for those and get that kind of funding. But I guess the short answer to your question, I'm not really there yet
Okay.
in my
No,
in my
fair.
knowledge.
Totally fair.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
We stop having fires and floods and snows.
Oh, looks like we have a question in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the comment, Deborah. Is she gone?
Obviously, I'll point out that this is 172,000, which is like 100,000 less than the total allocation, as I recall, for this particular round.
What did we go something?
I think they asked for,
It's a heat meeting,
you go like 60 odd.
Chiefs meeting, Weaverville was gonna ask for 60,000. The watershed center, Xander might know,
It's right here, it's 66.
66,000. Then, Pine Pond was gonna apply for $5,000. They wanted to, rent space for their fire safe council, and part of the Title III is expand broadband access, so we're gonna put broadband there and all that stuff, so it's 5,000. SAR was 20,000, including training. And those were just the ones that we knew about. That ends up to.
That's what was the total?
285,000.
285, okay, so this is 172, and then what you just said was 60 and 20. 5 and 5, right? So that's another 90, so that leaves something like 35,000. 35,000 left.
And we don't know, like I said, the departments, they know, you guys explained to them, I mean, that they can apply for equipment. As long as it's, wild and not structure, we kind of explained that all to them.
We tried.
Yeah, we tried. But so I don't know.
Well, I would, like I said, I'm sorry, I got sending this down the path we did when I did, because I only knew what was the one letter at the time, and it just seemed to me that I just, kind of like you, I just don't want us to be perceived as favoring some over others. But as long as it's somehow clear that we're making recommendations based on only the people who submitted to us, and that we aren't some selection committee.
And I do think we are gonna turn in ours then for 15.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get the CFF grant.
In the future, would it be possible to recommend that that projects, be vetted by or not vetted, but like proposed to the Fire Safe Council, like in the actual advertisement in the paper? I mean, is that something that would allow people to know that they would have some extra clout if they came and got the
If you would
support?
like a letter of support from the Fire Safe Council, you would need
Submit
to.
your proposal by such and such a date.
Yeah.
Because when are these due?
The 31st.
So we don't have time to do
No,
that
it's
now.
next week.
Yeah, something like that.
But I mean, in the future.
In the future, yeah.
It's a great idea, right? I mean, it should all come through this, right? I mean,
Think so.
I would
I
think
mean,
so
that's
too.
kind of how it's been done,
Yeah, exactly.
which makes it easy for the
It
board.
would make it a lot easier and there would be that process. I just would want to ask if, and you might know, I mean, right now this flows through county admin, right? And so if that was, there would be no problem with that being a separate statement, just from the Fire Safe Council generally, you're just sort of making an offer to the community. But if it were to be a formal kind of vetting process, there's probably another conversation that needs to happen to make sure that how that flows, because it is county admin. I don't know the
Yeah,
answer to
I
that
think
question.
because it's county.
Right.
That again, I think if there's a strong perception that the county board of supervisors has essentially designated the Fire Safe Council as some sort of filter, then there are legal consequences to that. I mean, there's the Brown Act kind of meetings would have to, a Fire Safe Council meeting would have to follow the Brown Act, with public noticing and all that kind of thing. Taking forward minutes and so, I think we want to make sure that was a path that both the county and the Fire Safe Council wanted to go down, versus something that's less formal.
So I think if anything, I mean, just based on everything that's sort of going on right now, there's a lot of hot topics taking up oxygen in the county at the moment, and fires going on. It's so imminent that if we calendar this for say 6 months from now and make a plan to go have that conversation with
For the
admin
future.
for the next cycle
Yeah.
and find out what we can do in a more comfortable time frame and lay that out better. That seems like a really good idea.
That seems to me like it would
Okay.
And I
it would
know
simplify the process. I
Yeah.
think is what-
Sure.
And I know the RCD and the Watershed Center probably have at least thought through what if it's oversubscribed? What are you willing to drop from your proposals? Hopefully I'm not just being spitting. But I mean, I'm sure you've had
In the
those
weeds.
conversations and I mean, once it gets published, you know, goes to the board the first time and they have to publish the ad for 45, you know, that 45-day period, you guys will have to figure it out what you would cut. You know. I mean,
A
it's like,
couple of comments, please.
yeah,
I think the Fire Safe Council really needs to look hard at whether it wants to be a preliminary vetting body for the Board of Supervisors on applications. And I think Pat's comments are exactly right. You would have to follow Brown Act kind of procedure. And would that then preclude who gets to vet those programs? I mean, would the RCD or Watershed Center, who are major applicants, be able to chime in on what gets pushed forward and what in what the lineup would be? I think there's a lot of questions about the Fire Safe Council doing that in the future.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not-
what I was started off in the beginning, was like, I don't know what our role is really.
yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't know that in the past,
Just to coordinate projects.
you know, but I don't know that in the past that that Title III proposals have gotten letters of support from the Fire Safe Council. I just don't recall I mean, I think we would have, I
Well,
would
no,
remember
we-
having had this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, every year they've written
they?
letters, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. I know, I signed a bunch
For the Title III, not Title II.
for the title.
And does that become a mandatory process that an applicant has to go through the Fire Safe Council?
No.
If they don't and go directly to the Board of Supervisors, is that looked on as a negative?
That's my concern.
That was, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it goes to the Board of Supervisors and it doesn't have a Fire Safe Council letter of
Is
support,
that a black mark?
is that a black
Right,
mark?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fraught with lots of problems, lots of considerations.
Well, on both sides, right, Jerry? Like if you do, but what if not? What if the process is just like it is and 2 or 3 projects get a letter and they look like they're more favored? What are your thoughts there?
I would say it's the applicant's responsibility to get as much support for their application as possible.
Okay.
I don't know if we have to take on that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it,
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah.
And then would all this just go to like the clerk of the board to get put on the agenda, or is there, you know?
So they're due by a certain date and then the whole package is put on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors, and the Secure Rural Schools law is really specific that that first view that the Board of Supervisors has is not to say yes or no, but it's to say that the projects seem to meet the criteria of Title III of Secure Rural Schools, and that the county should publish in the newspaper that list of proposals and how much they're asking for. And then 45 days later, it goes back to the Board of Supervisors, and then they've got to make the tough decision. What are they gonna fund?
Well, and I'd have to say, so we already turned ours into Susie and it has a budget and everything, so the supervisors can look at what we want and what our budget says. And so it's a little bit harder, you know, like with the letter of support here, I don't know what the budget is for like the 66,000 or the 100,000. I mean, I don't really know.
To break down.
Yeah.
Well, as long as I was just looking at it like, so we're not, just, you know, from my own knowledge, we're not vetting the entire grant. We're only writing a letter of support for one project.
At a
And these,
time.
yeah, and then like your project you're looking for or watershed district would have to get, or it helps to have a letter of support from either Fire Safe Council or whoever they elect to go to. Like I say, I'm still trying to learn, I'm trying to understand the problem. I don't want to take up a bunch of time.
You're signing the
But
letter.
that's just it. I need some of this thing, so I want, you know.
Okay, so, but last question, and Jerry chime in here as well. Would it be proper, as was suggested, to just put some sort of noticing in the newspapers from the Fire Safe Council so that any applicant realizes that if they wish to come and ask for a letter, that's an option, an opportunity that they individually then have.
I would say not.
And, okay.
Again, I think it's the applicant's responsibility. They could go to their local fire department to get a letter. They could go to the fire chief. They can go everywhere. Why are we that special? That we get,
Sure, I know, I understand. I wasn't really thinking in terms of elevating the weight that the Fire Safe Council has on anything. I was just thinking in terms of trying to help educate people as to what options for helping their cause might be. But it sounds like what you're saying is that needs to be each one's own personal responsibility to sort of figure that out.
I mean, the letter from the Fire Safe Council, that was because historically it was kind of these three entities that were divvying up the money. And so those three entities, you know, they would, because the Fire Safe Council coordinates like these fuel reduction projects and stuff. So when they were mostly fuel reduction projects, the chipping program, the fuel reduction project, it made sense for the Fire Safe Council to say, yeah, we've looked at these three big players and they've divvied up the money and we support that. But now it's not that way anymore because you got fire departments asking for money. Hopefully you got more Firewise communities. Like last year, we got money for home hardening demonstration. It's more diversity of projects, more diversity of applicants. And so the you know, coming to the Fire Safe Council, to me, this just doesn't make as much sense anymore. Which is what I said at the beginning.
I wanted to read Chris's comment. He sent something in the chat where he says, I agree with Jerry. It is the applicant's responsibility to gather support. They're all free to present, to the Fire Safe Council if they choose, and the Fire Safe Council can support or not as it chooses.
As long as they know that they have that option. Right now, they don't know they have that option.
Did any of these entities go to anywhere else to get letters of support?
You guys go anywhere, there's nobody else. You didn't ask for a
That's
letter of
the
support.
Fire Safe Council carries a lot of weight.
I don't.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
we
If
did
it
talk,
has-
I did talk to the Fire
we did-
Chiefs Association, you know, but the Fire Chiefs Association, same thing. They don't know that they can say, we like this project over this one. So, it's just like, but I could have asked them for a letter if I would have known
I think
letters of support were helpful.
I think the issue with going to the Fire Chiefs Association this year was the timing of
Yeah.
the press release. So I don't think anyone had like, or maybe, I mean, the Weaverville Fire did, they didn't ask for a letter of support, but there wasn't like a concrete proposal ready yet that we could confidently prepare a letter of support and feel like that's what the proposal was going to be when it was presented to the board.
Well,
So I guess what I want to know is then you both are uncomfortable with doing anything like this now and into the future, like providing letters of support for any projects. That's what I'm hearing.
no. You mean for any project to Title III?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm uncomfortable this year doing that just because I don't think people knew that a letter of support from the Fire Safe Council would potentially carry more weight with the Board of Supervisors. I don't think that they understood that here's this letter of support, and I could have gotten one if I would have known I should have asked for one.
So then, how do you educate people in that way? If you're not gonna put a letter in the newspaper, then people are gonna have to learn by example.
Well, I'm just saying for this year,
Mhm.
that's why that was my.
But I mean, from what I kind of see, like Jerry and Chris, probably others, if they don't feel like that's ever an appropriate thing, understandable and certainly heard, then how else will people learn other than, oh, I saw another group did that last year, that
That's
looked
how.
effective, that's how you do it. And then if that's the case, then
And with that in mind, I probably would vote yes on these letters.
Well, I mean, last year was or 2 years ago when we went through this process, it was the first time where we had, what, 10 or 12 different applicants.
And you had applicants like Coffee Creek that met the criteria, they got wildland gear. They didn't know that they were supposed to come to the fire safe, or that they could have come to the fire safe council. They just turned it in. They followed what was in the paper, turned it in, and then it met the criteria, and the board of supervisors gave them money. So
I don't know that our letters from the fire safe council made
Make it
any difference anyway.
Yeah, and if the only people that have come to us to get these letters are these groups, then why would that hold any more weight, our recommendation, if the other people never came to us? I mean, they could have had the recommendation also if they come to us, but since nobody else did, why should these particular projects carry any more weight than those, just because we've looked at them and approved them?
As I recall, through the last time that this happened, there was the CAO or whoever basically did a vetting of the ones that basically said, okay, well, the ambulance is not even applicable. I knew you were involved or whatever.
It was me telling the county.
Right, and so, but, as it turned out, in that case, all other ones were funded with people like the organizations like the RCD and the Watershed Center backing off their asks to make it all fit and work.
And some of
They
the,
took off like the structure gear for Douglas City
Right.
and
There
the
were
other
some
stuff
things
that wasn't favorable.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, the things everything that was eligible from that entire list of proposals basically got funded with
some reduction.
With some reductions to primarily the RCD and the Watershed Center's asks.
Yeah, because
Well, we got a reduction in our ads.
reduced theirs. There were others.
Yeah, they reduced ours, which kind of made one part of it unfeasible, so we didn't get the whole thing done. But we got done a lot of stuff.
But my recollection of that process, and correct me if I'm not remembering correctly, I didn't feel like the board really made the decision.
Right.
I felt like the people made the decision, and then we kind of watched what was happening in the room as people shifted and conversed. And then they said, we're happy, and the board said, awesome, they're happy, we're all happy.
How
Right?
unusual that is.
And that should, in my opinion, that should be how it goes. You're the people that know what needs to be done and where shifting can occur to get the priorities taken care of. And if that's the way that it ends up going, then the letters, maybe the best, as a suggestion, what if there weren't any letters? And then that's an even table too.
But who makes that I mean, there's gotta be a group of people that, everybody has to get together and go, okay, this is what we wanna do, this is what we have to offer. But if it comes down to like a group like this, if we were the ones that kind of assisted in that to get everybody to the table, discuss it, then is that where we turn around and have to follow the Brown Act because we're.
Well, yeah, then we're back to that whole vetting
Right. Yeah.
process, which didn't really
Yeah.
want
it
to.
kind of happened more organically
Mhm.
because of the board deliberations.
Yeah.
Right.
It happened in the boardroom in the moment.
Oh, wow.
And that was after everybody, again, there was the first initial review of, okay, this is all of what we have. And then when we saw that it was an overshoot by whatever that amount was, then there were discussions that kind of happened to, who's willing to, reduce admin levels. That was one of the things that I remember we talked about and on ours. And, I think our initial ask last time was like 60,000, but we backed it down to 40. How do we make all that stuff work so that everybody gets a slice of the pie and walks away with something that's, workable? And so, we won't know that until it goes before the board with the full list.
Mhm.
And then we can sort all that stuff, but it did happen at the meeting.
Yeah.
It wasn't in a fire safe council meeting.
Correct.
It was
Yeah.
basically at the board supervisors meeting. But we all kind of came in knowing like, okay, well, we generally like, this is where we can get close. And how do we all sort of get to that place together, and it happened there. So
Mhm.
I'm comfortable with that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, and thinking to the future and assuming that secure rule schools gets reauthorized and there's a future, one way to simplify this issue of letters of support would be that the board of supervisors could kind of qualify what they want to see in an application. You know, I mean, when they put out their advertisement, it says, these, if you're interested, these are the kind of things that qualify for projects. But I've submitted grant applications to organizations that say, we don't want any letters of support. We want something, just a narrative describing your project and a budget, and that's it. We don't want anything else.
Well, that's what's weird about this. I mean, it really doesn't say you have to submit a budget.
No, but
I
I'm
just threw
saying
one
they
in
could,
anyway.
the board could, I think, say that's
Yeah,
what they
we
want
want
in
a
their
budget.
applications. And then it would be more, then it'd be clearer.
I'll share this over to you.
Okay. So given the involved conversation on this item. No, I'm curious if somebody wants to actually make a formal motion so we can kind of facilitate it forward. Like if we.
Before someone does that, I was thinking that the individuals here who are representatives of any of the applicants probably should formally recuse themselves or abstain from making motions or even
In voting.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
the question becomes who's left.
Mhm.
Just
Me.
those three guys and some of the people up on the board.
We probably have more on the board than at the table.
But anyway, I just think that the minutes should clearly identify that all the people abstaining.
I think that's a reasonable request, Chair. Do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right, so are there any motions?
Making a motion, and going like this. Yeah, well, that's the motion I'm doing. Getting there.
Do you have something, Jerry?
I'll move to approve the letter.
To approve the RCD letter of support?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sort of sitting in a meeting facilitation role, but I also want to open, as I ask who votes in support, who votes against, etc., that I feel like I should abstain from a vote. So that being said, who?
I clearly abstain. If we're gonna go one by one.
Yes. Yeah, is somebody,
Did you get a second?
I didn't hear a second.
I think we just got a motion.
Does somebody second that motion?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, so Jerry, let me write that down. Motion for approving first letter. Chris seconds. Okay. And I like the idea of just calling on everyone one by one. So I will start with Zoom. Xander?
I'm gonna abstain.
Thank you. Larry?
Yes, I support.
Garrett? One.
Yeah, do I get a vote in this?
Have you attended a fire safe council meeting in the last 6 months?
I don't remember the last one. It's probably, yeah, I don't remember. It's been a while.
Okay. Are you comfortable with me marking you as abstained?
Yep.
Okay. Chris is in support. Jerry, can I count you as in support of your motion?
Yes,
Gina, did I see a thumbs up?
Yes, you did.
Dave?
I wasn't sure what the criteria were for voting, but I have been to one, so it's a yes for me.
Okay. And Jeff? Or Jeff, have you attended in the last 6 months?
Yeah, I have, so sustain.
Sorry, that was a vote in support?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then moving to the room. Dave, how would you vote? Non-voter? Oh.
Well, I think they were very well written letters. I think they're limited use since these are the only projects that have letters of support and no one else came to us with letters of support. And I don't know if having a contract with the RCD puts me in a conflict of interest on this.
We wouldn't be hiring you for any of this work.
So there's no conflict. So I would go for it. Yeah.
Philip?
Yes.
And do you support abstain? Abstain. Carol, do you abstain? Yes.
More yeses than abstentions.
I mean, I am tabulating.
Does that matter? Isn't it just yeses and noes?
Well,
So when you're done with the abstentions, do you need a form out of that? Abstentions, depends on your rules, abstentions in the boardroom counting them now.
right. Ruben's rules of order.
Yeah,
Versus Roberts.
right.
So we were only voting on one letter.
That was just for the RCD letter.
I don't have to. We don't have to abstain for that. Well, I guess we should because it influences the decision on our own process.
I thought, you want to have Jerry clarify his motion? I thought he said he was in support of the letters plural.
Jerry, were you in support of all letters or just the RCD letter?
just the RCD, it's the only one I'm seeing. Is there another letter to come to the table? Or is it the same letter for a different organization? But I'm just looking at the RCD letter, which was my motion.
Right, okay. I was thinking, we could go to the next letter next and then the third, unless there's a
So did
motion.
you get enough yeses?
I got. Hold on, let me double check.
So to answer Jerry's question, there's 3 letters, Jerry.
But only one letter was sent out in the email to the agenda.
Okay,
That's why
so
you
you're
don't-
not considering the other 2
No,
today?
that's the reason you only sees one letter.
Do the other 2 letters, I mean, there are people that could vote, approve anything on the other 2 letters, they couldn't on this because there would be a, you know, a conflict.
My opinion for myself is that because I'm with an organization that is submitting one of the proposals, then it would be inconsistent for me to vote on any.
In your guys' situation, I'm not quite, like if, well, I guess it'd be all the way around, because like Xander and anything like that, it would still be. It's a group, yeah, it's, you know, it's not like it's still all the same funds.
Yeah.
I think we are tied. Because we have 8 in support and 8 abstained.
What rules do you fall under this?
So doesn't that pass? I mean, abstains are not a no vote.
Right, I don't think this
I
is
think we'll just,
this isn't a Brown Act committee,
Right.
right?
Yeah, you only,
So
you
for
have
8
8 votes
you're
in
good.
favor and really no
no votes
against.
against.
Right.
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 Like if you record it that way, you know, 8
Okay.
abstentions or whatever.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll just leave.
Well, that's always a chance.
Okay, all right, so with 8 abstentions, 8 votes in support and 0 no's, we will count that as a yes for the chair to sign this letter. Do you concur, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. That finishes item 4A. Unless there is more discussion or questions or anything else for the good of the order, we can move on to 4B, which will be Trinity Center's letter, which I will share on the screen for our viewers online.
Chair, if I could, I have to leave in 10 minutes and my outcome on the next will be the same, right, with an abstention. Could I just ask if there are any updates that are like critical to current matters right now that I should know about before I go? Is that okay to ask for an item out of order?
Yeah, I find that appropriate. Do you agree?
Yeah. If
Okay.
you want to, as far as going through the,
And I'm sure that people have a lot of report outs. If I could just ask if there's something that you want the board to be made aware of.
yeah, that'd be good.
Does anyone online have any updates that they would like to make the board aware of? I see from Dave, who hopped off, an update from TPUD that TPUD is continuing routine pruning and hazard tree abatement along all their facilities, monitoring the deep and 3 to 9 fires in case action is required on their part. CDF con-crews, excuse me, have been doing some ROW cleaning for us on Trinity Elk Road, and they are pursuing U.S. Forest Service CWDF grant for fuel reduction. Stay safe. See you next month. Okay, great.
I'm sorry Dave left. I was just I wanted to ask him about the presentation for their right-of-way program. Does anybody know about that, when that's gonna happen?
I think you mean the RAP project?
Yes, right. They were supposed to be at this last meeting. They were gonna do something, and any updates?
I don't know an update about that. You could ask
Okay,
your son for us.
I'm sorry.
You could ask your son for us.
Hey, Alex. Oh, he's not here.
Andrew has his hand up, so.
John goes, Xander?
Yeah, quick update. So the Board of Supervisors is aware we are pursuing a Sierra Nevada Conservancy implementation grant to cover about 300 acres of work within the Bowerman Cooperative Fuel Break project footprint. And this will be mostly in areas where, right in the community of Covington Mill, in areas that are kind of difficult to access. So it'll be manual work, as well as some roadside work adjacent to Highway 3. Randy's actually meeting with the SNC today on the ground at those sites. So it's a work in progress. And I can't really give many details beyond the target of 300 acres now, but just thought you might be aware of that, Jill.
Nice, thank you, and good luck.
Thanks.
You need letters of support.
Next time do we have?
What's the dollar amount you're looking for, Xander? Can you tell?
I don't have it in front of me, and it was sort of a last minute nature here.
1.6 million or something like that.
I don't believe it was that much. I'll try and find it.
It's over $1 million. No.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here.
Okay, great. That's great.
I can get back to you though if you'd like.
It's fine. If you get it, we'll know the amount, and that would be awesome. Right now, we know the work you're trying to accomplish, which is admirable. Appreciate it.
That site tour is also why Bethany had to leave early.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Oh, this was from Bethany. Okay. I guess to that end, Bethany had a meeting with S&C this afternoon also. So most important update is our new CAL FIRE fire prevention grant, which includes state lands east of Weaverville and some areas in and around Weaverville, Lewiston, and Junction City, $1.8 million. Says David Hart knows about it. I think this is with some of the intent of this was it was in and around the kind of the areas that are outside of on private lands outside of the community forest, but that would tie in sort of how the community forest treatments are wrapping around the basins. So, and I know that we're also working closely with the State Lands Commission about this other piece that's sort of nestled up in that same neck of the woods, right here at the basin too. So we're trying to get some commitment from them to do some of the work in that area as well. So that's
so
like
you got to leave it.
Yeah,
How about
great.
questions?
Okay.
Questions for you. So I thought I read in the paper that the school folks were headed back to DC to advocate for security of schools. Is there a concurrent kind of boards of supervisors effort going on?
So the effort that we have going on is predominantly, there's three, really. We made a pitch to Congressman Huffman when he was here, and he assured me in conversation that this was a huge priority for him. RCRC is advocating heavily. And then the county anteed in, gosh, I'd have to look back. To look back at the last meeting's minutes to see how much money it was. I think we gave 1% of our essentially PIL funding that we just received to become a part of a NACO subset that will be, it's not an annual commitment, it's a one-time buy-in to have ongoing lobbying for our PIL funding. And so that will be more effective than our little voices traveling all the way to DC to try to talk to the right person in the right room at the right time. And it's a louder voice. So, yeah.
PIL funding is separate from secure rural schools.
Yes.
You're not having to stop.
We did. And when you talk to these folks about it, though, I mean, they see it.
This PIL is pretty piddly compared to secure rural schools.
Well, and then it's the way that you sign up, and for us, right, it's the option that you choose, and we choose not the.
So typically when they use PIL payment in lieu of taxes, that refers to funding for lands that are managed by the U.S. Department of Interior to money to the county. When we talk about secure schools, it's money from it's lands managed by the USDA. So we have a little bit of BLM lands, we get a little bit of a little bit of Bureau of Reclamation in land, and that's a little bit of yeah. So they're similar. They're at least kissing cousins.
Right. But I think that we can dive into this more with Heidi, but I think that the coalition of what NACO is looking for are in our same situation, looking for federal lands to basically pay their property tax.
Okay. Yeah.
But don't you get the total money no matter what? It doesn't have to be renewed.
No. Yes. It has. But like Nevada really cares about building, because most of their land is BLM managed.
Right.
So they get millions of dollars of building.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that some action was going.
Action is going on, and I'll connect with Heidi
Yeah.
to clarify what NACO was doing. I can look in the agenda packet, I'm sure it's spelled out there. But when we had the presentation from Graham Canals from CSAC, and he made the pitch for all of the California counties to say,
Buy-in.
let's buy in
Okay.
and make this happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
I think we're
Yeah.
good.
Sandra put up a chat that their initial SEC ask is $970,000.
Oh, beautiful. Great.
Better get some voting going on this.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Okay.
losing people.
Losing people who can vote.
Okay, so, so we got 2 additional letters, asking to raise the hand or something. Oh, for the
Instead of
votes,
going around the-
okay. Getting snappy here, so we'll start with the, Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department, request for letter of support. So I have shared my screen with our group on Zoom. Group in the room has physical copies. So let's take a moment, review this, and then we can.
So, basically, Title III funds emergency equipment if it's related to wildfire response. Same, right? The Trinity Center is asking for 2 radios for our wildfire response, because our radios are from 2009. And they don't clone, they don't talk to the Forest Service, which was an issue during the river complex. So we want to get a radio for our chief and assistant chief, so they can at least talk to the Forest Service during the federal fire. Like the one we have right now. So we're asking for $6,500. 2 radios.
Pretty good deal, actually.
For the BRK.
Yeah, actually, I think I paid once, well. Price is going up, it's almost 6 months out. I just looked at the last.
We got for the 2 radios and then the software to program.
No, that's fair, that's very fair. That's
Okay. So the screen has been shared for about 2 minutes. I'm not sure if that's adequate time for our online council members. Please speak up if you want another minute, and if anybody wants to make a motion for a vote, please do.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Gina, what's your motion?
Approve it.
Okay. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Thank you, Larry. Okay. So I see a thumbs up, which is an affirmative vote from Gina. Are we all comfortable using emojis for the voting process?
So one thing I've done in the meetings is ask just the question, is there anybody opposed to the motion?
Okay. Is there anybody opposed to the letter of support? Is there anybody that would like to abstain?
My abstention.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
I'll abstain also.
Were you a yes vote, Chris?
I am a yes vote.
Okay, thank you. And then Carol abstains. You abstain. 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 Kenneth?
Yes.
Yes. Philip?
Yes.
Yes, all right. With 5 yeses, it passes. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Carol, I'm gonna ask you questions when we're all done with this. Because I'm gonna write a note here.
Okay, so moving on to the final letter of support, we have a letter of support from the Watershed Center. Oh, do you have a comment, Larry?
Nope.
Okay. Xander, did you want to maybe spend a moment discussing the proposal?
Yeah, I think it's mostly laid out within the letter, but I think the intent of it is to try and get better access into some of the areas that have been left out of treatments in years past. And we're thinking we want to change the way that we do our advertisement and outreach a little bit. And I think what we're going to do is try and target really visible areas for treatment, just so that, you know, folks can see what the end product is. Because in some of the more outlying areas, like Wildwood or to a lesser extent, Southern Trinity, folks aren't that interested if we just kind of cold call them or show up on their property. They're not immediately interested in giving our crews access. So that's pretty much what this will go towards, is more of the same work that we've been doing, but in more areas, hopefully.
Thank you, Xander.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, Xander, that this doesn't include toxic chemicals.
To my knowledge, it doesn't include any toxic chemicals, aside from bar oil, I guess.
Xander, this is Kenneth. I'm doing a forest management plan for the Heller High Water Ranch southeast of Ketpom. And I talked with Bob Fuga, who's the lessee, and he says his pastures, which once were weed-free, since the August complex now have a lot of noxious weeds. Is that an area you would be interested in working in?
Potentially. The weeds program is out of my wheelhouse, but I can pass that question on to John Clough, who's our resident weeds expert, and get back to you if you'd like.
Great, I would appreciate that.
Repeat the name of the property again, Kenneth?
It's called the Heller High Water Ranch.
Got it, thanks.
Coleman Valley.
Thank you.
If there are no additional questions or comments on this letter of support, do we have a motion?
I would move that we support it.
Okay, do we have a second?
Ditto.
Okay. Larry moves to support. Kenneth in second. Okay, are there any abstentions online?
I abstain.
I'll also abstain.
Thank you. Larry, do you vote in support?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Gina? Thumbs up. All right,
Yes.
thank you. Abstain, Pat? Abstain? Philip?
Yes.
Yes, Kenneth?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Gina. Yes, okay. With 5 votes yes, the letter of support passes. We have, unless there are any additional comments or questions or concerns, we have gotten through item 4. Good job, everyone.
Or that's half an hour per item.
Okay. So next on the agenda is Fire Safe Council Coordinator updates. Given that we're running a little longer than usual, I'll try to keep them straight to the point for everyone. There are ongoing fires, so we are trying very hard to keep our ears to the ground, stay updated, share what we know in the newsletter that went out this week on our Facebook page. A lot of resharing from TCOES and the Trinity Center BFD. We've been attending the community meetings, either myself or Bethany, in Weaverville, Hayfork, and Trinity Center. And there will be that evacuation status presentation on our website or on our Facebook tomorrow. And now notes on ways to improve both programs. Progress continues on the hazard mitigation plan. We had meeting with TCOES yesterday to work through the proposed mitigation strategy, as well as reviewing the previous mitigation actions and mitigation actions that weren't adopted as the mitigation strategy, but discussed in the previous hazard plan. So we're
gonna release the results of the survey, you know, what people identified as the hazards.
Yes, so that will be included in the plan within a community engagement section. We are in early talks for fall community chipping. We have a meeting next week to discuss outreach, but that is to start in October. So we'll have information on our website, on Facebook, and also press release in the journal for folks to sign up for community chipping. Our intent is to beat the spring community chipping record of 133 applications. So we're very keen on beating that. In addition, we are looking to rev up some Firewise community outreach. We're going to conduct our yearly windshield survey in September, and also work on increasing enrollment and outreach and education, enrollment in our Firewise boards, and also outreach and education events in our Firewise communities, which haven't had outreach and education events this year. We've been getting a lot of requests for Firewise maps or Firewise certificates, which we have been sharing that information to everyone. We had an ad since the last Fire Safe Council meeting in the Trinity Journal, which I think has been very successful because a lot of people have been calling and saying, we heard about your program in the journal and we'd like to learn more. Shortly before this meeting, I actually got a call from somebody who said, I talked to my insurance company yesterday and they said that because I was in the Weaverville Firewise community, I'll get $300 off. So that was very exciting.
You need to do an article that kind of highlights some of that kind of stuff. You know, really, you know, it's just
what we're actually doing.
Yeah, what actually people are seeing as far as.
Yeah.
I mean,
the money in their pocket.
We talked about that yesterday as far as like a monthly article in the newspaper as to what OES Fire Safe counts, you know, kind of give an overview of what we're working on and what we've done so far.
Yeah.
So to get people engaged, I think they'll start understanding more about what we do.
And we've sent out, I've sent out at least a dozen letters, you know, for our Firewise community, and yeah, people are getting that 7% when you're paying $8,000 a year. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Well, just be able to retain your insurance because so many companies are leaving California to do more just left.
Do you know anything more about, so August 23rd was when California Fair Plan was supposed to announce the criteria for you know, putting the press release from them for individual homeowners to get a discount if they had done defensive base and home hardening.
I saw that on the insurance website. I haven't seen exactly what that looks like yet. I know personally, I'm going through the fair registration process. I just got fair, and I've heard from other folks who have gotten like fair coverage that they sent out somebody look at their property. So far for me, they've only looked for pictures. So as I learn and speak to fair brokers,
That would
I
be,
will update.
that'd be an incredible incentive for people to do the home hardening in defensible space if they get an additional discount from California Fair Plan, if they, beyond the Firewise community, if they've done these other individual things. So, yeah, I'm trying to find out about that too.
Okay, I'll look into it and update the group. We have some generated interest from the board for the local area advisor program that came up during the cooperators meeting for the deep fire on Tuesday. So we did a promotion on our Facebook and are looking to do a press release in the journal to hopefully get more engagement. Because like it came up because there's not currently, other than the VFD, like a area advisor.
So they didn't even consider me a local area advisor. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. They're like,
I had that same issue with
Yeah.
even on the South Fork when I brought it up to them, and I understand it was just right when I started talking with the liaisons, but they didn't show a great interest in that. We have Bay Fork and Iron Palm, and
so the issue we're seeing at the cooperators meetings is they define local area advisors differently than the fire safe council, so somehow or other we need to get the IMTs to look at our list. And our list should include the fire department chief and assistant chief.
So are you not getting contacted?
I like inserted, I'm like a pest, okay? So I right off the bat inserted myself into the previous team 3. So, but Rick Lutweiler asked at one of the cooperators meetings if they had contacted like our local area advisors and all that stuff, and they're like, huh? What?
well, again, they had a different idea of what an LAA
Yeah.
was. They called it was more of the, but I think he mentioned it as more of an ambassador. So he may have, because when I was there at the meeting and it was more of, I think they were thinking more of the neighborhood ambassador versus the local area advisor. But I did, I reached out, this was team 10 is the one that he was at. Team 11, I brought it up to their liaison and they said, well, we'll look at that, right then it was just, they had just reached out to me.
So do we give them, does the RCD give the teams, what, when they're coming in, shadowing in, do you give them the list of the local area advisors?
So this time around, I think.
I would think it would be more of what I should be doing.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why I reached out, because when it first started, I reached out to David in Hayfork and Larry in Ironfall. And Larry didn't get back to me. David did, but then Larry showed up on one of the pull-off calls and had some questions down there about them doing some outreach in Ironfall. And they reached out to him and they communicated back and forth. He came up with a plan. So it did work, but I do think I need to literally get like maybe a list. I looked at their application, I like their credentials, and literally take that to the liaison and say, look, we have this person. This is our contact.
Yeah.
I emailed them the information, but I didn't email them like the description of what their history is. Like, Dave at Hayfork, he's got 42 years of Forest Service. So he knows that area. So that's kind of, but it seemed like they didn't seem real interested. And then as things started to progress, and it seemed like they really were doing really well right off the bat, especially Team 11, they do really well. We've had them before. So I just kind of like, well, I stay in touch with them and let them know, but I didn't really follow anything else further with it. So But we'll definitely do that, just make sure that they have that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, is just.
I
to
can reach
Give
out.
them that list right off the bat
Yeah.
when they're.
We don't,
first coming
unfortunately, because that's what I first done, we didn't have anybody for your area, and I reached out to Skylar, and it's, we were kind of discussing it, and it seemed like there was maybe an application, but it didn't go through, so we still
It
don't
was
have
for,
anybody.
yeah, it was one geographic area.
Yeah, so we still don't have anybody up your way. So we really ought to promote some of the areas that we're lacking,
Yeah, I might even, maybe we could include in the press release, we don't have a local area advisor for this community, and that could probably make people realize like, oh my gosh, there's nobody, in this role speaking for my community.
Yeah.
Well, you need to really explain what it is too.
Yeah, but well, I think that before, the application is.
But I mean, in the press release.
Yeah.
Larry has his hand up.
Hey, yeah, I just want to report that for the first time, they actually, the agencies reached out to me like multiple times, right from the get-go. And I did recommend they talk to Larry Winter since he was right in the thick of it, so.
Okay, yeah, great, Larry, thank you, because that's where I was going with that. But when Larry showed up on the cooperators meeting, I went, okay, good, he's there. And they can go that, but no, thank you for putting that out. That's very helpful.
Unless there are additional questions or comments regarding the Trinity County Fire Safe Council update, we could transition to the project updates. Yeah. So we have Xander. Xander, do you want to kick us off? We're in reverse alphabetical order again.
Yeah, I like it. I think I already mentioned the new SNC implementation proposal at Bowerman. But are there any extra questions on that? Hearing none, I guess the next thing for us on the docket is we've got an executed agreement with the state for the latest forest health grant that we applied for. And I think that totals right about 8 million. And that will be allocated between Hayfork and High-and-Palm. High-and-Palm's been prioritized first for treatments. And so we are in kind of the strategizing phase for how we're going to do our CEQA compliance for that area. It includes some fuel breaks on private land on South Fork Mountain, on the Trinity Timberlands holding there. It'll be some fuel break and roadside brushing implementation on federal land where they have signed NEPA. And it'll be some planning and implementation of prescribed fire. And so I think we're gonna start the compliance effort for the CEQA this winter. And the goal is to start implementing next year. That dovetails with the Community Wildfire Defense Grant proposal that we were selected for, but the actual agreement has yet to be executed. And that'll be used to treat defensible space in private driveways and such in High-and-Palm. The other half of the Forest Health Grant will be around Hayfork, doing a lot of the same private land kind of fuel break, fuel buffer projects where folks border with the Forest Service. So that's been kind of exciting to see that project get rolling. Otherwise, we have, I think, 4 hand crews now working. The Watershed Center was selected as a subcontractor in one of the federal blanket purchase agreement projects. that went out recently that the Shasta Trinity awarded. It's a integrated resource service contract, and so our crews will be doing, I think, about 1,000 acres of implementation in the Pettyjohn project area, roadside fuels treatments there. Been working on a fuel break on Sierra Pacific land on the Hayfork Divide south of Hayfork Summit, on kind of the Wells Mountain Bim area. Masticator's been busy in plantations up in Lake Forest area, near Covington. And other than that, I don't have anything that's front and center in my brain, but does anyone have any questions?
Just a comment, I'm really glad you're going to be working on Trinity Timberlands property. That it needs help bad.
I agree.
Okay, thank you, Xander. Seeing no more questions or comments for Xander, let's do Willow Creek Fire Safe Council.
Alrighty then. Well, seems like we haven't been doing anything, but then again, it's like we're totally overwhelmed and busy with everything. So keeping up with the social media and the ongoing fires that come about, and keeping, just updated current information as everyone else is. Would like to update our website with the different links. I don't know that we have OES on there. We do have both county fire safe councils, Humboldt and Trinity. So there's that. We will be writing a letter of support for the Redwood Community Energy Association that supports the VFDs. It's something that's just been thrown at us. So we're going to accomplish that here as soon as we're done with this Zoom. Then we've been ongoing with Humboldt County Storm Recovery and Phase 4 CAL FIRE monies. Kind of went into a lull with the contractors because of the heat. And that will be ongoing. We're looking forward to, we've had a few meetings for the CWDG part of kind of like planning and design. So there's a lot of good stuff happening there. We had a meeting scheduled for next Friday that I think we're going to postpone because of the ongoing fires. Nothing's really close to us, but our main people are out in important positions. So there's that. We had our rep attend the Humboldt County Fire Safe Council meeting last Thursday. They did not have a quorum because of the main players being committed to different fires. So they turned it into a little bit of a work meeting. And what come out of that was the FireWise certification, which is coming up due for us. There will be some additional changes. Instead of it being, not that it's easy and simple to make happen, all of our in-kind hours just added right up, but I think we're going to do more of like specifics. It was talked about here earlier, like actually describing some of the work that we're doing and getting the community's involvement and engaged. So we've got Tanner there with the county. He's going to be kind of doing a lead with it, so that it may not go in this go round, but we'll be ready for it next year. Just with the way we're recording our in-kind service, and we're actually in a upgraded stage going all Google Drive with this council here, starting to get more familiar with using our .org, our Fire Safe Council Gmails and .org. So trying to be more professional so that when we do these kind of letters of support and or planning for the FireWise certificate, that we're just kind of consolidated. I think the one thing I would like to request from for this Willow Creek Fire Safe Council is if there's any extra maps that either can be made or laying around to do with the zones for Trinity County. I'd love to see a full map of, whether it be small handouts or one large one that could be here at the office. I know the area, but a lot of people don't. Like I said earlier, the confusion that came about with that, you know, of course, it said South Fork of the Trinity. If it said Headwaters, or if it said something different, the HYA meant nothing to certain ones, you know, especially community members, few people out of the area with family that lives on the South Fork. And, you know, just kind of, it's new, of course, so that will come about in time. But I think our CWPP update is important, and that is something we're also looking into money wise. I think I said that last time. Is we're just still hanging there. We're going off the Humboldt County's update and Trinity County's funding. You know, that isn't cheap. So there's been a couple of idea places, Nature Conservancy money, maybe from them. So that's kind of like an ongoing, kind of a living update that's available online. And I think building our crew capacity right now is really important. Even though we have 7 directors, we're still just a few of us that are active. And everybody's so busy. I get it. But trying to keep up with all the opportunities and the different things, especially grant writing. That was interesting to hear about the Title III grants that are coming up, the RAT grants. We, the last one that we applied for, went into it blind, didn't realize. And so the big thing with me is understanding if reimbursable payment versus an advanced, we're struggling financially. So I'm kind of, you know, that could be a dilemma for future. But we have considered looking into the Humboldt and Trinity County RAT grant that is coming up. I know we're coming close on a deadline, so don't be surprised if we weasel something in there. We've got a young lady, Sophia Sadie, that's willing to help us as kind of like a partner with us. We had to remove her from being a member so that there wouldn't be no conflict. So our organization's a little structured. I'm still learning it myself. But there's a lot of good things going on. I appreciate the Trinity County Fire Safe Council and all the members that show up. I learn from you guys, so keep up that good work. And just information, you know, communication is huge. The Code Red and the different websites that are available. We on South Fork is where I live. We've been out of power a lot lately. The last few weeks, we've been out of power numerous times for a couple, like 23 hours at a time. So figuring it out, you know, you've got the landline, and not everybody does. And, you know, it's either generator, word of mouth. So there's a lot of communication. You know, like a whole half a day goes by, I made a dump run, come back, still no power. And all of a sudden I see rigs going by. There was a report of a fire up on Hennessy. It turned out to be false alarm. Smoke check was unable to locate, but you know, it's the usual. We live in the Boone Toolies, so we're just trying to figure it out and survive and keep up. But also thankful for the Zooms and websites and stuff like that. So everybody keep up the good work. I think that's it for me, unless there's any questions.
So Gina, I think you can email Denise at the RCD. Skylar will let you know, because I've gotten a map from her of all the evacuation zones for our area.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have it posted on the wall at the fire station and a cardboard thing that we set up at the post office whenever there's a lot of questions. But that's been very helpful, just a big physical map that shows all the evacuation zones in our area when that kind of question comes up.
Yes, I like that. And the whole county, you know, that's what I would like to see along. I, being a county resident, I received my little pamphlet, but I like the idea of having additional maps posted.
Right around.
I mean, it's a big map.
Yeah, but did you print your own, or did she send you a map?
She sent us a map. There's no way we can print big maps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Regina, do you have access to a plotter to print up your own map?
No, I don't know that I do. I know the Forest Service had availability one, and then maybe the county RCD does in Humboldt County.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I have that on a PDF that I could send you if you could print it, but it might be better off, like Carol was saying, maybe just get Denise to just print you off a map and
that would
send
be
it to you.
Yeah,
Is
I
our-
think that would be the better idea for me.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you. Yeah, just one for the Fire Safe Council office. I don't know if our Salyer store post office area, or even if I just had a little smaller one that I can refer to. You know, it's just, I'm still learning myself. You know, I get the SAL 498, that's where I am. And then just 4 miles out, it's SFT 500, you know, and it's, I get it where the, you know, HYA for High Palm, but a lot of people don't. And so it's, and I just want something to refer to so I know I'm sharing accurate information.
Gina.
Yeah.
This is Kenneth Baldwin. Did you ever access the Downriver Fire Fuel Management Plan that I wrote?
I did see that once. It's filed somewhere. If you could resend that, I'd be grateful.
It's on the RCD website.
Yeah, it's on the RCD website. Maybe
Okay.
you could tell her where to look. I think it's under fire plans or something.
Yeah, I do have that.
Library. But that has, you know, I was just looking at that the other day and I can't believe how much detail I wrote into that plan about roads and
Yeah.
and the whole Marianne. It doesn't cover, it covers part of Willow Creek, only that part that's in Trinity County, but all those power lines that it shows, I tracked all of those because I couldn't get any of that information from PG&E. So that's all really accurate information still.
Yeah, it is. I have seen it. I will look for it again.
It might be helpful. It's got some.
Yeah, it will be.
I'll send
Thank
you.
you.
Link. I'll send you, Gina. I'll send you a link to it on our website.
Can you?
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Forward it to you as well.
I've got some work I'm doing that too.
Are there any other comments or questions for Gina? Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So next we have RCD.
Me. Okay, we have a crew or two, depends on the week, from week to week. We got PG&E funding to the tune of about $100,000, and we're doing a bunch of implementation down in the Ruth and Mad River area. Probably have another month's worth of work to do down there, all on private lands, within 1,000 feet of their PG&E infrastructure. So it's all pretty much, you know, the main stretches on like Van Dusen side, and then the Mad River side, and some in a couple of different spots around that Ruth Lake area as well. The rest of our guys, we have 4 crews going. The rest of our guys have been working down actually as part of the Willow Creek storm recovery efforts with Humboldt County, working on the Trinity side in Salyer and Hawkins Bar vicinity. I think that we're either finished this week or finished last week, the implementation of that project. And then the guys have moved on now to, I think they're working out in Beaver K right now. So on CAL FIRE fire prevention grant that we currently have. I did want to also mention that since Gina's on here, she might have some interest in this. CARCD had received some funding. I can't remember exactly the source of this funding, but it was fairly significant. I believe it was akin to CWVG, but it's different than that somehow. And so CARCD is handing off they said somewhere between $4 and $5 million to Humboldt County RCD to work with and around the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council footprint. So that's on both the Humboldt side and the Trinity side. They're going to basically be contracting with us to do work on the Trinity side and possibly some of the implementation on the Humboldt side. But it's mostly 2022 disaster funding. So it has to do mostly with lightning complex and private lands impacted by that fire and the Knob fire also. And so they were trying to see if they could stretch that to, because Monument happened in 21, they were trying to see if they could stretch that, because there's a lot more of that impact on the Trinity side from that fire too, that could be included based on the geographic area that that they identified. So so that's happening. That's kind of in development at this point. But with implementation, we expect either to start later this year or sometime next year. And I think that's a multi-year agreement, 3 or 4 years agreement from what I gathered. As I mentioned earlier, Bethany had to step out. She was meeting with Sierra Nevada Conservancy on some project, potential project work up in the North Lake area. I don't know exactly, maybe Bethany's talked to Carol about that. I can't remember exactly to what extent or where that is. The redo of the road.
It's the roads partnership where you would be doing the roads up into the wilderness and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
All the access roads.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
If you need a letter of support for that, she submitted the concept proposal, so now I'm assuming you're going to be working on the real proposal. So that, because I asked SNC if we needed to send in a letter of support, and they said wait for the detailed proposal. So when you need a letter of support, let us know.
Yeah, and for the CSD, our next meeting is the second Tuesday of September.
Okay, I'll mention that to her. That's great. We'll see how receptive they were today.
Sorry, what was the date for the next meeting?
Second Tuesday in September.
Thank you.
That looks like that would be the 12th. Okay, and then I'm going on a kind of a field tour with the Watershed Center next Wednesday, and we're gonna have a look at the Headwaters Land Trust up there, along with John. I think they invited John Driscoll and Trent Tuthill, and so there's kind of like just getting getting more decision makers sort of in on board with what this project is going to look like. So they had asked me to, as a partner, to attend that. And then Weaverville Community Forest Steering Committee meeting is on Wednesday, September 6th, about 2 weeks. And we'll be talking at length about the annual operating plan and getting things lined out for the Oregon Mountain timber sale, which will be coming down. We just received funding from them to do some like forestry support on laying out units and flat marking and all that kind of stuff. So I think
it's supposed to be a community forest steering committee field trip to look at Sample Park, right?
that will be doing planning at this next meeting for that field tour. Yes. Yep. And I think that's enough for me today.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you. Next we have TCOES.
Got several projects in the works we're working on. We just finalized all of the contract and paperwork for the new generator change out for Weaverville Fire Department, and that the existing generator that's there will be repurposed over to Junction City. I'll go down and start surveying that and start getting the project working on that. Doing a real big push on our emergency alert sirens. Still working for Burnt Ranch to be the first one to go through. We're still stumbling with getting a pole, hopefully donated, a 50-foot pole donated and installed in the ground, and then trying to. So I'm going to kind of start doing a little bit of political. Might go out and do a little campaigning to see what kind of. I know that TPUT is real good about. They have a good program where they will donate. So, but I'm trying to work out a partnership with several parties to get several of these sirens out, and that's what I'll talk to you about afterwards too. Because I know we've discussed it already before. To get some other locations, especially after what's going on over on in Hawaii. We really have a lot of areas that don't get the cell service, that don't. It takes so long for the sheriffs to get there, that we want to get these sirens up and get them running. So Burnt Ranch is still the first priority.
How many are you planning?
I have 4 right now, and we have 1 sitting in Burnt Ranch. We have 1 sitting in Melanie has 1 down in Southern Trinity. Todd has 1 in Weaverville, and I have 1 in my possession. So I'd really like to, and I would like to even, once we kind of get rolling on this, see, I've been working with Bill over at Sharp Electric, who looked at the installation of it. It really makes sense to put it on the pole before we set the pole up, because the unit's so big, trying to get it up there with an electrician and a bucket to install it. So it's kind of a 2-part process of getting the pole in the area we're going to put it, having them drill the hole, get it installed, and then having a crane lift it up and set it in place. So, and then wiring it in, finding the right area that has emergency power, because I don't.
I was gonna ask about that piece, because
Yeah.
like Gina mentioned, I had heard a number of times from people down, like crews, like our crews have been down river, and with all the fire activity and weird stuff, they said that, like Gina mentioned, you know, there's been power outages, like PG&E will just cut them off.
Yeah.
You know, like no warnings or anything for like undetermined amounts of time. And so, I mean, if these things are getting set up.
Yeah, this one was given to Burnt Ranch when Ed was still in place. And I think mainly because it has a great location to put it. It has an area where the sound will carry. If we just, you know, if we have room to put one further, like maybe downriver area, you know, big bar area to cover that. That's why I'm really trying to, and you know, trying to find other areas. Todd talked, you know, one has 1 for here. So getting them in these outlying areas, and I have, you know, I have money already to purchase more. Not a lot. I mean, I can probably get 3 more, I think, with the funding that I have, but then I have to find funding to do the installation. So that's why I'm really trying to work with partners to see what we can do to do it, get the best bang for our buck, and see what kind of donation, you know, how much we can get donated. So that's a real big push right now, project for me. And we have some other little projects, some more soft target protection in you know, in Weaverville, some of the county buildings, things like that for vehicle borne and stuff. So that's really that, and you know, and just really impressed with last night's turnout for that area. You know, that's the best we've seen, and I was very happy to see that, you know, and they didn't have a lot of questions for me. You know, I kind of thought, you know, did I explain it right, or did I miss something, or maybe they're just that, you know, they're really that in tune with it. So I hope for the latter. But yeah, just the fires are looking good. These teams are doing a great job, and I hope within their, you know, in their 2-week stint that whatever they hand off isn't much. Right. You know? So yeah, just, and you know, really, like Skyler said, hazard mitigation and evacuation zones, all the stuff that we've covered. It's been a real, and I hit my 1 year. I made it through my probation. So you can't throw me out now. You're stuck with me.
You're official.
I'm official.
That's great.
That's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's unless there's any questions.
We'll keep you, yeah.
Yeah, let's hope, and nobody else will have me.
No, you've been doing a
I'm
great job.
trying.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions for Philip? Seeing none, I think next is Trinity Center VFD or collaborative, if you have any collaborative updates.
We had a South Fork Mountain field tour planned, but it was in conjunct with a lot of those fire starts that were happening and equipment weather and all that kind of stuff. So we decided to postpone that until October. Larry, did you have anything else you wanted to add for collaborative?
Yeah, that was the big one. And then there was going to be a public meeting in High and Palm that had to get canceled too for that project. Yeah, it was unfortunate. We've been trying to get this South Fork Mountain project. I guess the Watershed Center's involved in it as well. Going for some time. It's a collaborative process between Six Rivers and Shasta Trinity, Strategic Ridge, and we'd really like to see work get started. But yeah, the day that we had planned that trip, yeah, that would have been a disaster. Yeah, not the best day for that.
That was a good call, Larry. I think that's it. Other than that, we've got our standard meetings coming up in September, rec committee and our full collaborative on the 15th.
Any comments or questions for the collaborative? Seeing none, Trinity Center VFD.
Nope, nothing.
Important.
Nothing. Doing our fire thing. Doing fire.
Thank you. Okay, going down the line. Larry, do you have any updates for SAFE?
Just what we already talked about. So that was it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So Larry Winter wasn't able to attend today for High and Palm Fire Safe Council, but he wanted to share that they're currently looking to request about $3,600 from Title III funds to help carry out CWPP updates for High and Palm and do planning work there specifically, including community meetings. I know at the Fire Chiefs Association meeting, they were talking about looking for funding for them getting an office and having a base of operations for that.
They wanted to rent one of the classrooms at the school.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that to the group if anybody had any comments or questions. I also wanted to use it as an opportunity to ask Gina, maybe even offline, how your office got funded and maybe if we can use a similar strategy to fund the High and Palm Fire Safe Council office, because they have some really cool work planned out.
Yeah, I could explain a little bit more in other emails or whatever, but it was just an opportunity of a low income $500 a month space. We had to come out of Barb's back room, and then we were all in people's garages and just running with our bags in our back of our pickup. And then we actually applied through the HAF, Humboldt Area Foundation, and we specifically said that we would like to have, we asked for 2 years worth of rent. I think they only give us enough for the 1 year, but as long as we itemized it down, it was money up front. So it wasn't like we had to, reimburse or do anything like that. So that was very fortunate for us. And I think the HAF, Humboldt Area Foundation, Wild Rivers is their full name. They're probably not the only funder around, but they are a big one. And it was specifically for us to build our crew capacity. They wanted to know what our successional planning was going to be and all that kind of stuff. And for us to continue, in the beginning, I mean, this has been going, this organization, 15, 16 years with, the legal EIN and the bank account and everything in Barb's back room. And Barb Dar, she's been involved that long. And she was like a one-man band, get up at 4 or 5 in the morning on a pot of coffee and just, kind of do it, run down to the, there was main players, of course, the directors and all, but HAF seen that and seen that we were going. So that's kind of was our saving grace at this point. Now, if we can continue, because, you know, we've got rent 500 a month plus, you know, a few utilities and the Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a challenge to maintain when running with these contractors and we have to pay them out first. That's it's all a big eye opener to me. But just to get started, I would suggest looking into the HAF, and I'm sure there's others. But that was, you know, I was surprised that they approved it, and we went ahead and rented it before they did approve it. So I don't know what we were going to do if, you know, that didn't happen. But we said that so we don't have to spend most all of our time fundraising. We would just like a home base, you know, a good head start, and it was approved. So that was kind of how we got going with this one.
Okay, thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
Just maybe, I was hoping Ryan was going to be on this call, but Ryan with Northern Valley Catholic Social Services, I talk to him probably at least once a week. But he might be another, they have money for Trinity County for education, for all kinds of different things through some different grants. And I know they have some more grants coming forward. So you might be a real good one to ask about that too.
Thank you.
HAF's really good. We did get some money from them for some items.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on HIAMCOM? Okay. That takes us to last but not least, BLM. Garrett, do you have any updates?
Yeah, I got updates. Do you want me? I got a bunch of maps up. I can share my screen if you guys like to see that.
Yeah, sure. Do you have screen sharing capabilities?
It says the green share screen button down here. Let's see if this works. Host disabled. Okay, so I can't.
Switch it to both. There you go. Now it should work.
Okay, let me try it again. Okay, perfect. You guys see that map?
No.
Okay, let me click share. There we go.
There it goes.
All right, we on the map of Ewing Reservoir here?
Yes.
Okay, so the Ewing Reservoir project, and we got 43 acres masticated with the Watershed Research Training Center. So the green stuff down here, this was originally masticated in 2010. We re-entered that, so maintenance treatment, and then we completed this, which wasn't done in 2010. And that was completed about I think a week or two ago, and that looks really good in there. Got a call from Cal Fire, who saw recently the work, super excited about it, and be coordinating with him our projects in the future up there. So let me move over to
What are we looking at? What is that?
oh, so this is in Hayfork, the Ewing Reservoir.
Yeah, but what is the project?
So this is a mastication fuel break along a ridge line on BLM land right here. So yeah, this was done in 2010, this light green, and then we were able to pick this up this year and do the whole thing. So it's got a fresh fuel break along that ridge line there.
Could you post that on your on the FSC website? See, I'm writing a fire management plan for a proposed subdivision to the west of Ewing Reservoir, and this would be useful for me in writing that plan.
Okay. What website did you want it posted to?
Email it to Skylar.
Oh, email it to Skylar?
Do you have my email, Garrett?
I don't think so.
Well, email it to me. I'll give you it.
Okay. What's your email?
It's brave friend, lowercase, all lowercase, brave friend @hotmail.com.
Put it in the chat.
bravefriend@hotmail.com.
Yeah.
Hotmail?
Hotmail.
Yeah, so this work was completed with the GNA with the Water Research Training Center, and the next steps in that GNA is to start establishing a plan for the rest of this BLM parcels around Hayfork. So hopefully expanding on this ridgeline fuel break, getting down into the bulk of the parcel here, and probably with mastication and then future fire. So any questions on the Ewing Reservoir project? All right, we'll move in to some other projects. So this is the Lewiston Community Protection. That one is pretty much complete. We have a little bit of burning to do over here in this along, I believe this is Lewiston Highway Road, or Old Lewiston Road. And then up at the top over here in this Rush Creek area in Ravenwood, I think there's 20 acres left to burn, and that project is done. And that's a mix of hand pile and burn and mastication. The next project, we've got piles, unit 1 and unit 6. We need to complete those with the burning, and then Reading Indian Creek, the original woodland restoration project will be completed, but then we will also be expanding on that, which I'll drag this map over. The light green is our expansion to that project. So we're currently working on the DNA to get compliance for that. I think we're looking at implementing probably next fall, possibly. So
You know when you're gonna be burning the piles, like in Lewiston and stuff?
yeah, so Lewiston is one of my priority areas because it is only 20 acres left to complete that project. Probably when we have our first good window, we'll look at getting in there. So fall. Our fuels module will probably come on. We're looking at late November. But if I can get folks to come over and implement those burns prior to that, then we'll get in there as soon as we can.
I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the right ones, but the ones that are along Rush Creek Road, we get so many complaints and questions about those. It'd be good to get those done.
Yeah, we have a small chunk left over there between the two areas over here along the highway, or the old Lewiston Road, and then the Rush Creek. Yeah, we are it's about 20 acres left. Oh, and then there's piles along here too, which is next to the Loudon Ranch. But yeah, that's my number one priority, is get in there and finish up that project when we have a good window.
That came up last night.
Yeah, it came up last night at our community meeting.
Trinity Center.
In Trinity Center.
It's definitely in our sights to get that done.
Right,
So.
and it was terrible.
Well, there was the areas along Trinity Boulevard where the Forest Service.
Yeah.
Ones, they were like right on the road. Yeah.
Derek, could you also send me this map that you have and the one of Indian Creek? That shows the Indian Creek project?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the Little Browns Creek, we've got pretty much majority of these piles completed. In this unit, this is unit 1, 2, and 3. With 20 acres left to complete that project. The contractors got snowed out, and then they had to stop because of some bird surveys that needed to be. Yeah, we just ran into our wall there. And then so this coming fall, sorry, they're cleaning the office now, so they're gonna have the vacuum in the background. But so this is this unit right here is next up for implementation this fall, and that's 120 acres off of Browns Mountain Road. It's gonna get really loud. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
I can't hear the vacuum, Garrett.
You can't hear the vacuum? Okay.
No.
I can't hear myself. So yeah, that project, that's gonna be like 200 plus acres, probably in that we need to burn. Other good news is the Weirville Community Protection Project that we have was awarded just 2 days ago.
Nice.
So that will be implementation due to start on the unit, which would be this area where Oregon crosses the creek, and then this upper, I believe that's Democrat Gulch Road, as part of the first year. And then the second year is here, this long unit, and then the third year would be the kind of outlying bordering red. And the way that contract, it's a 5-year contract. We fully funded the first 3 years, so the initial implementation will get completed in 3 years, and then I left in 2 maintenance option years that will allow us to treat 250 acres of that same project if conditions are conducive to a re-entry in there. So I think that's the bulk of the ongoing and future stuff. I do want to, oh, here's my extensive Excel spreadsheet of all my projects, but I wanted to mention that we are looking to address the kind of the conifer die-off in the Trinity County area. We know it's been put on our radar. We've got some opportunity for funding that we're going to be putting in for to treat that. We're looking at a project area of 10,000 acres. Doesn't mean we're going to be able to treat all of it, but we are trying to put in for some money to address that issue. The other thing that it came to my attention is I received a letter was shared with me from the community of Junction City about the request for us to work with the Forest Service to put in a fuel break just above Junction City, kind of in that Brock Gulch, just above the Brock Gulch or between Brock Gulch and 299. So I'll be looking at that and reaching out to, I believe, Tim Ritchie to see if we could make something work between our 2 agencies. And that's about all I got to report, unless there's any questions.
That's awesome.
Yeah, great work.
Thank you. All right, how do I stop sharing now?
Any other comments or questions for Garrett?
No, that's great.
Okay, thank you, Garrett. I might be able to veto you.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Here.
Perfect.
Okay, so seeing we've gone through the project updates, Kenneth, do you have anything that you'd like to bring for the good of the order?
Well, I'm gonna be writing a forest management plan for Gompa and Junction City and for Chris Cole and for Travis Maxson, who has 100 acres right across the road from you guys.
Yeah, up the
Like
hill.
forest.
Yeah, and then also this one over in
High water.
Elder High Water Branch. Yeah. Yeah, I met with him and found out what he wants to do. He wants to cut all that dead timber, pile it and burn it and deal with the brush and seed it to pasture forage for his cattle. It's a tremendous amount of work out there.
Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Before we adjourn, I wanted to ask if there were any final thoughts or discussion items that you'd like to see on the next Fire Safe Council agenda.
I think Jerry said something about the RAP project, an update on the RAP.
He just wanted to know when he was hoping to ask Dave to land, when they were gonna do one in front of the DVD board.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Okay. All right. There's nothing else, and we can conclude the meeting at 4:03 p.m.
Wow.
This was a long meeting.
Yeah.
And a lot of
This new chairman, I don't know.
Thank
I
you,
think
everyone.
that you should take it all away from me right now. I don't, do you have other